Okay. Good afternoon, members. Renowned our power. I'd like to open this July hybrid meeting of Flintshire County Council's Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Richard Lloyd and I'll be chairing the meeting today. And I welcome committee members, officers and members of the public and press and anyone watching on the Council's website. Planning Committee members in the chamber today, we have Councillors William Mullen, Gladys Healy, Paul Johnson, Mike Pearce, Sean Bibby, Andrew Parkhurst and myself. And those attending remotely, we have Councillors Paul Cunningham, Alan Marshall, Chris Dolphin, Chris Bithell and Carol Ellis. Just to a reminder, voting will be taken by a show of hands and we'll take members online voting first. Can I now invite Matthew Parry-Davis, the Service Manager for Development, to set out the principles of this hybrid meeting today. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a hybrid meeting and is being live streamed via the Council's website. A recording of today's meeting will also be made available on the website as soon as possible, usually within 24 hours. Some participants are attending here in the chamber and others are joining online. Where a speaker is unable to attend or experiences technical difficulties, they may have submitted a written statement in advance, which I will read out at the appropriate point during the meeting. For those attending today, each planning application will be considered in the following order. The Chair will introduce the item before inviting the case officers to present the application. Any late representations received since publication of the agenda will then be read out if we have any. Where public speakers have registered to address the committee, they will be heard in the following order. Speaker against, speaker for, town and community council representative, local ward member, and where appropriate, adjoining ward members. Once all of the presentations and representations have been heard, the committee will debate the application and members will have the opportunity to ask questions of the officers. When the debate is concluded, the Chair will invite a member of the Planning Committee to make a proposition, which will then require a seconder. The proposal will then be put to the vote by a show of hands, after which the legal officer will announce the decision of the committee. For members of the committee, please wait until you've heard the officer's presentation, all representations and the debate before making a proposal. For those members who have joined the meeting remotely, please use the virtual raise hand function if you wish to ask a question or speak during the debate, and the Chair will invite you to contribute at the appropriate time. Finally, members are reminded that they may only vote on an application if they have been present throughout the officer's presentation, all representations and the committee debate on that application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Matthew. Okay, moving on to the agenda then. The first item is apologies. I've had apologies from Councillors Adele Davis-Cook and Councillor Bill Crease. Do we have any more apologies? No? Okay, thank you. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Does any member have a declaration of interest for today's agenda, please? Show. That's a no. Thank you. Agenda item 3, late observations. We have some late observations and Matthew will read them out when we come to that item on the agenda. Agenda item 4 are the minutes. To confirm as a correct record, the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of May 2026. And we'll go from page by page. Page 5, page 6, page 7, and page 8. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sean Bibby. A seconder, please. Councillor Gladys Healy. All in favour of the minutes. We'll try this now. We'll go online first. We'll do it. If you can put your hands down, just a practice really for later on. Put your hands down in the room. All in favour of the minutes online, please. Show. Okay. In the room. In the room. Show. Favour of the minutes. Sean, you can put your hand on that. Okay, that's unanimous. Thanks. Hope the other items are a bit easier than that one. Okay. Agenda item 5 are urgent matters agreed by the Chair. I have none. And agenda item 6 are items to be deferred. I'll just move over to Matthew because the officers may have an item which suggests to be deferred.
Thank you, Chair. We are seeking deferral of item 6.6, which is the full planning application for the demolition of the existing warehouse and office building and the erection of new storage facility with ancillary office space at Tiger Tim in Rose Esmore. Following the site visit on Monday, a couple of issues came to light. So the grounds for deferral are to enable a consultation with CADU regarding the proximity of the development to the scheduled ancient monument, to enable further consultation with North Wales Fire and Rescue Service in relation to fire safety matters, including emergency access and firefighting provision, and also to enable officers and the applicant to review and verify additional plans that had been submitted by the ward members at the site visit on Monday. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Matthew. Can I have a proposer to defer agenda item 7.6, wasn't it? Yes, sure. Are you moving deferral? Yeah. Can I have a second for deferral? Councillor Parkhurst, Councillor Pearce.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I support the deferral, noting the comments made by the officer. But can I add the consideration is given to the smell that's emitted from this development, from this site, and also the background noise. It was quite clear on the site visit on Monday that the smell was there for the entire period that we were there. So you could conclude maybe it perhaps there all the time. I think due to the proximity of properties, it wouldn't be very pleasant living there with that smell. I don't know whether there are filters that are blocked or there are no filters and they actually need some. So while the deferral is taking place, can we seek further information on trying to eradicate the smell and the background noise? I was told on site that that goes on for 24 hours, and I think that would be completely unacceptable. So I think there are some issues, and that is right to defer this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Good points there, and Matthew's got a note of those, and we'll follow that through. Thank you. Right, we'll just vote on that deferral. We did have a proposal say, so all in favour of deferral online? That's unanimous. Thank you. So that item will be deferred. If there's anybody in the room for that item, I don't think there is, because I think everybody knows, don't they? So, yeah, they can leave. All right, thank you. So agenda item 7 are reports of the Chief Officer, Place and Growth, and agenda item 7.1 is advertisement consent to install 4 non-illuminated sponsorship signs, 1,000 millimetres by 500 millimetres, placed on the roundabout using a powder-coated 2 posts and plate passive sign system. 1 sign located facing each road entrance at roundabout Plough Lane, Aston Park Road, Lower Aston, Deeside. And the officer presenting the item is Nicola Drury. Thanks, Nicola.
Thank you, Chair. So, as you've just explained, the application is for advertisement consent for 4 non-illuminated sponsorship signs to be installed on the roundabout at Plough Lane, Aston Park Road, Lower Aston. Each sign is to be 1 metre by 0.5 metre and will face each road entrance. Highways Development Control and Community and Business Protection Officers have raised no objections. This is application, it's one of several applications recently submitted at various locations across the county. The applications have been submitted by Outdo Limited and Flintshire County Council in partnership with the Business Development Manager, the Street Scene Maintenance Manager and the Senior Markets Officer. This has come to committee as Councillor Buckley has requested the referral to committee due to concerns that the signs may create a visual distraction to drivers.
Okay, thank you, Nicola. We have no late observations on this item, so I'll move straight to the third-party representation. The only one we have is the local member, Councillor Gillian Brockley. And you've got 5 minutes, Councillor Brockley. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair and committee members. As ward member, I stand here, as always, to represent the voice of our community. While we are fully aware that other roundabouts in Flintshire have recently been approved for commercial sponsorship, those sites mostly sit on bypasses or heavily industrialised trunk roads. Aston Roundabout at the Plough Lane and Aston Park Road junction is fundamentally different. It is the immediate, intimate gateway to the quiet, dense residential housing estate of Aston Park, the large housing estates of Higher Shotton, and it is the primary access route to Deeside Community Hospital. Precedent on a commercial bypass cannot and must not dictate the erosion of safety and amenity in a sensitive residential and also healthcare setting. So please let us address public safety. A roundabout is one of the most cognitively demanding environments on our roads. Motorists navigating this junction during peak hours and weekends must manage multiple tasks simultaneously, as with all roundabouts: monitoring lane discipline, checking mirrors, reading road markings, and looking out for fast-moving traffic. For as much as we would wish it, many motorists do not stick to 20 miles an hour. Then there are delivery drivers who are so often in a hurry. Compounding this complexity, Aston Park Plough Lane Roundabout serves outpatients, elderly individuals attending rehabilitation, staff and visitors heading to and from Deeside Community Hospital. These hospital users are frequently anxious, driving slowly, or completely unfamiliar with the local layout as they hunt for the entrance. Mix these groups together on a daily basis alongside the school children who use this roundabout as a primary walking to school crossing point, and you have a very volatile traffic mix. It navigates safely at present precisely because drivers are currently able to concentrate 100% on a complex environment. A roundabout is always a complex environment. The moment you introduce 4 corporate signs designed specifically to break that concentration, cause distraction, you disrupt that delicate safety balance. The explicit legal purpose of an advertisement is to capture the driver's attention. Introducing 4 corporate signs means intentionally introducing 4 points of visual distraction. Non-illuminated or not, they are designed to be looked at. Whether it is a resident commuter rushing to work or an anxious hospital visitor looking for a turning, a split-second distraction to look at a sponsor's logo is all it takes to miss a braking car or a child stepping off the curb. We should not be compromising public safety for corporate branding. And I would like to address the erosion of residential amenity, the detriment to local visual amenity. Our local families take immense pride in the character of Aston Park and Higher Shotton, with a children's playground facing this roundabout. This roundabout has become a peaceful haven of nature and wildflowers, not overgrown, but a calming site for those leaving or returning home, or those on their way to and from their hospital appointments. Placing 4 separate corporate posts in a single compact roundabout will result in extreme, unnecessary visual clutter and force an unwanted commercial feel onto the area. It will force a sterile, commercialised and untidy aesthetic onto what should be a welcoming residential approach and a calm civic environment surrounding a local community healthcare facility. The cumulative impact of 4 signs on a roundabout of this size is completely disproportionate. It detracts from the neighbourhood feel, trading a clean community entrance for unnecessary urban clutter. Chair, under Planning Policy Wales and Technical Advice Note 7, advertisement consent must be refused if it harms safety or amenity. Hardon Community Council have said no, citing that it would be too much of a visual distraction. Residents have said no. Ward members have said no. We must prioritise the safety of all road users, our drivers, our vulnerable hospital visitors, our working school children, and the pride of our neighbourhood over corporate branding revenue. It would add nothing, it would just detract in both safety and aesthetic. I strongly urge the committee to respect the local democratic consensus, reject the officer's recommendation, and refuse this application today. Thank you. Although, as I do have a little bit more time, can I add another point on this as well? With respect, and I do respect officers' technical work, officers look at blueprints and minimal technical thresholds on a desktop assessment. This committee exists to apply local democratic judgment to the human reality on the ground. An officer's report cannot capture the volatile peak mix of ordinary commuters interacting with anxious hospital visitors and walking school children. If we simply rubber-stamped officers' reports, the law would not grant elected committees the ultimate power of veto. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. Thank you. Okay, do we have any members wishing to speak or ask questions on this item? Oh, Councillor, please. No, we've sort of altered the order a little bit, and it was your suggestion, if you remember, to. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I just no speaker. So I just noticed there doesn't seem to be any other objections from other councillors, town council or residents. Hi. Sorry. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Yeah. Well, it says no response in the report. Obviously, highways have no objection, but with conditions. I notice this is quite common on a lot of roundabouts. Nice to see some wildflowers on the roundabout as well would be nice. I'm just thinking of a large screen we've got in Saltney, which I think the whole committee objected to, and that is a big distraction. But unfortunately, that was allowed on appeal. Councillor Bibby.
Yeah, just for clarity and I think for accuracy, whilst the main report that's been sent to committee does say that Hardon Community Council hasn't had response at the time of writing, if you do look at the responses on the application page on the website, it does take you to a document that notes that Hardon Community Council object, members felt the sign are too much of a distraction for drivers. So just for the Councillor Buckley is correct in the fact that Hardon Community Council has objected.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bibby. Yeah, let me just ask the officer something. Can I just check with officers? Nicola, did you receive any objections from the town council, the community council?
Looking on there now, there is an objection on there, but that hasn't been passed to me. It's come on like a joint objection to other applications. So it's only just shown up on my thing here. I'm not sure when it was, but when I've written the report, it wasn't on there.
So, okay, can you put your mic off there? So, okay, we'll take it. There is an objection from the town council. Okay, Councillor Pearce.
Right, thank you. On on page 11, under Highways Development Control, it says it recommends condition and note to applicant imposed on any permission granted. But what is it? It doesn't tell us what it is. Recommends condition and note to applicant imposed on any permission granted. It's meaningless, Chairman. I don't know what it's telling us. And I don't see any conditions actually in this either. Thank you.
Did you say page 11?
Page 11, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. Highways Development Control.
Yeah, see it, yeah, okay. So what, yeah, okay, so do we know, Nicola, what the condition is?
Yeah, there's notes, which I'm just opening up now. The notes don't get added onto the report, but they were added on here. Just going back to the other matter, the reason that's not been seen, the consultation period ended on the 11th of June, and it looks like it was added after that on the 13th. So yes, I accept that the same reasons were passed from Hardon Community Council, the same objection, however, it was received after the date. And have you got the notes? So the standard notes are just the standard consents that it's carried out in strictly in accordance with the specified plans and conditions. Any further development must have permission prior to being carried out. And then standard advert notes, a Welsh language, they need to be in accordance with the plans. Yeah, Welsh language. And they must be carried out in accordance with the plans agreed. So they're the notes are just basically backing up the conditions that everything must be accordance to the plans that are attached to the application.
Yeah, thanks for that. So the usual conditions by the sound of it. Councillor Parker.
Sorry, Chair, can I just get a clarification, please, on the procedures? Because I note that the consultation period had closed at that point, and that this objection from the Community Council was received after that date. But my understanding was that responses would be allowed until determination at committee. And if that is the case, should not that have been a late observation so that the committee has full sight of it? Thank you.
I agree with that, Chair.
Yeah, I just think Matthew and
Thank you, Chair. I mean, that is correct. So I've just looked online. It appears that comments were received from the Community Council on the 18th of June. So whilst it was after the statutory 21 day for consultation, it should really have been in the report. And even if it was after the date that the report was finalised, it should have been on the late obs. So it has been missed.
but I think it's quite clear now that we know now that there was an objection from Arden Council. So the committee is aware, so I think we're still able to deal with the matter, in my opinion. Any speakers online? Okay. Can I accept the proposition, please? Councillor Pearce.
Move refusal, Chairman.
Have you got a second there? So I'm just going to bring David. Mike, can you bring?
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of clarification. Councillor Buckley suggested there was a desktop assessment of the application, and just to assure members that the case officer has visited the site, as officers always do, to assess the planning application. So it was a physical assessment on site rather than a desktop assessment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a second to the Councillor Pearce? Councillor Cunningham, were you seconding Councillor Pearce?
Yes.
Councillor Cunningham?
Sorry, Chair. Yes, I was.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Chair. I'm grateful for the local member telling us about the situation in this location. And I accept what the Chief Officer said about it not being a desktop exercise, because obviously we have photographs of that area. So I think that concludes that it has been visited. Nonetheless, it says that this application is compliant with PC2, PC3 and EN18. It also talks about the supplementary planning guidance note and the Flintshire County Council roundabout sponsorship policy from 2011. But the report does not give any extracts from that. Without the documents in front of us, all the information contained therein presented to us in this report, what does the sponsorship policy say? What are the main points that we need to consider? Now, we're asked to approve an advertisement sign. We haven't seen the advertisement sign that is proposed to go on this land. So we have to accept perhaps what the member said, that it could be a distraction. Now, you know, we are bombarded on a daily basis with adverts on the TV, radio, social media. And I think when we get in the car, we try and get away from all that. But I think that this isn't the right approach to be sponsoring roundabouts like this. Heaven forbid if you start sponsoring New Low Roundabout after spending 900,000. You know, it's like Disney World, I'm afraid. I've been around it a couple of times. Some of the lights are working, some aren't. And I'm sure in due course it'll be sorted. But to start putting adverts on roundabouts like this, I know we have to deal with what's in front of us, but I would prefer an advert on the left-hand side of the road, on a straight road. You can have a quick glance and carry on. On a roundabout, it's more complex. You're looking around, you're seeing pedestrians crossing, etc. But I'm just disappointed that we're quoting a document from the 17th of May 2011, the roundabout sponsorship policy, but there's nothing in the report which is extracted from that. So it's difficult to see what the policy says. So it has to comment on and approve an application where the policy could be quite vague, because there's nothing in the report to advise members, and this is what the report is about. It's supposed to give us all the information that we can make our decisions. Now, it does talk in 708 about policy PC5, but in the conclusion, in the first paragraph, PC5 isn't mentioned about being a consideration in recommending the approval. So I think, due really to the lack of information and also the potential for distraction on a roundabout, I'm afraid I can't support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peters. Councillor Cunningham, as the seconder, did you want to speak on the item?
Thank you, Chair. I've used this roundabout quite often, and to be quite honest, I agree with Councillor Brockley. It would be a distraction. I've seen them on other roundabouts going to other places in another county, and they're nearer this sort of retail park. But where this roundabout is situated, it's not even on the main road. It's as she said, there is a playground, the hospital is near there, it goes down to a certain named supermarket, it takes you up into the housing estate, and I agree, it's a distraction. It's a busy area, and heaven forbid that a child or anybody gets knocked over by people being seeing the sign and being distracted and causing an accident. So therefore I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Bithell, you were next online.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The proposal meets and complies with our planning policies, and as has been already stated, with our planning guidance notes as well. Such adverts on roundabouts are very common now, not only in Flintshire but throughout the country. I think we were very late in coming to the party in this respect, because there were applications being made and we didn't have a policy on it some years ago, and I think that's when we created the policy to allow adverts on roundabouts and highways and highways of vital source at that particular stage as it is today. I've heard the comments made by the local member, and I understand what she's saying. But as I said, highways have looked at this, and they're the experts in their particular field and find it acceptable in highway terms. Again, I think we must remember that planning is not some kind of beauty contest, where the majority holds sway or whether for or against. It's on pure planning policies and principles. And again, as I said in many times in the past, we may well feel very, very self-congratulatory if we turn this down today, and may please some people. But this is not the end of the exercise, because there is an appeal process, and I believe that if this goes to appeal, it will be passed at appeal status. And this is not the busiest roundabout in the county, not by any means. It's a smaller roundabout and less busy from that particular point of view. So if we can have these on large roundabouts in far busier locations without problem, then I think this applies certainly to this smaller roundabout in this particular location. I'll be voting against the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bithell. Councillor Mullen.
Thanks, Chair. As you know, my ward is Broughton, and as you know, we've got a busy community in Broughton. We've got the shopping park, we've got the aircraft factory, we've got a number of issues there, and we have a lot of these roundabouts that have got advertisements. And to my knowledge, I've never heard of accidents happening because people have been distracted. So I'd just like to say, if they're all right in Broughton, I don't see a problem anywhere in the county. Simple as.
Thank you, Councillor Mullin. Councillor Paul Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Just preface my remarks here by saying I'm grateful for the notification about Harden Community Council putting in their consultation sheets. And I just ask some clarity here, because I notice there are 3 mentions of illuminated consent to install illuminated sponsorship signs on their list there. Their numbers being 000041126, 000042626, and 000042226. I noticed that they are both dealt with by 3 different officers. Only one of those has been brought to the planning committee. So my question simply is, to what extent do we have a consistency of policy across 3 things which I, as described by, again, using the words of Harden Council, it's very, very similar descriptions for both. In what way do we have a commonality of policy in the way we go and work with these? I think it is a concern to me. I'd rather that's what this committee went into today was consistent with the decisions that are made along these lines. Otherwise, we could end up with one rule for one roundabout and one rule for another.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Yeah, I'll just bring Matthew in to just answer your question there, Paul.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So these signs wouldn't normally come to committee. They don't fall within those parameters in the scheme of delegation that require committee approval. These have only come forward because Councillor Brockley removed it from delegation. That's the only reason why this has come to committee and the others haven't. In terms of sort of a standard approach, the council does have a policy in relation to signage on these roundabouts, and there's somebody who acts on behalf of the council, so they're pretty standard across. I think there's 19 roundabouts across the county, but the reason why this has come to committee and the others haven't is because Councillor Brockley requested this one come to committee.
Final question, and on one of the ones that's mentioned, well, it's not here, the roundabout 14 sorry, it's the roundabout 18 St David's Park. That's where they've had the new works. Am I correct on that? Just so I'm familiar with where that one is, although it's not happening here. Thank you.
Oh, Mike. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. You should be good at this now. You hear that often. Okay, I'll just bring the officer back to respond on those comments.
Yes, thank you, Chair. There isn't an awful lot more to add really than what's been said. The signs are non-illuminated. They have been approved in accordance with the policy the roundabout sponsorship policy. Sue Thomas from Highways, no objections, and no neighbours have responded. I can only apologise for missing the Harden Community Council comment, and that is on the system. It's just got to come after the date, but that is my error. It's the same comment as Councillor Brockley made, so hopefully nothing's been prejudiced with that.
Just to clarify one point, Councillor Pearce mentioned PC5. That's a typo. It should be PC3.
Okay, okay, I'm going to bring Councillor Pearce in to sum up as a proposer. Oh, just hang on a sec. Councillor Marshall, sorry, just spotted you.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. The signs are non-illuminated. Are they reflective at all, or just sort of passive powder paint? So you haven't got the type of reflective white as in the warning signs that we've got road signs. Thank you.
I think I can answer that. Looking at the agenda, it says using a powder-coated post and plate. So it's not reflective, Councillor Marshall. Okay. Okay, Councillor Pearce, to sum up, please.
All right, thank you, Chair. Thank you for all the comments. Yeah, having listened to the local member, there's a concern over distraction. I know what Councillor Mullin says. Yes, there are signs on roundabouts, but that doesn't prove that, you know, it may or may not cause an accident, but people may look at them. People may pull out looking at them when there's cars coming. So it's subjective. Now, the report does tell us that this proposal is considered compliant with policies PC2 and PC5, which has now been corrected to PC3. But it doesn't tell us in what way is it compliant, because in the report, we don't have the details of the Flintshire County Council roundabout sponsorship policy from the 17th of May 2011. That would have been useful to perhaps pick up the main bullet points. It doesn't indicate how it is compliant. It just says it is compliant. Councillor Bithell says it's compliant with our policy. Well, without perhaps even a summary of the policy, it's difficult to determine whether that is the case or not. So on the balance, Chair, and based on what's in the report, I move the application is refused. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. So the reasons for refusal, I think we need to make a note of those. If you could provide those, thanks.
Well, basically, it's considered the impact on road safety.
Thank you for that. Actually, I'm just noting on here the neighbour notifications, 30 letters sent out, no representatives were received from neighbouring properties. Just wanted to point that out. Okay, we'll take the vote, please, for refusal. We'll first go to all in favour of refusal online. Can you show your hands, please? 2. Okay. All those against refusal online? 2. All those for refusal in the room? No. All those against refusal in the room? 6. I got 3, 4, 8 against. Yeah, you agree on that?
Sorry, I got quite muddled there in the terms of the negatives that you used. Okay, I wanted to vote against the proposal.
Okay, we'll get that.
In other words, I want to vote in favour of it.
In that case, I've got 9 against and 3 for refusal. Yeah, agreed. Okay. Okay, can I have another proposition, please?
Can I move the recommendation, Chair, of approval?
Councillor Bithell, seconder for the recommendation, Councillor Mullin. Thank you. Any speakers on? Do we need speakers on? No. Okay. Okay. All in favour of the officer's recommendation online, please. Right. All those against officer's recommendation online? 1. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation in the room? 6. And against the officer's recommendation in the room? Against, yeah. I think Councillor Bethel just left a electronic hand up there, didn't it? How many did we get then? I'm not sure. Councillor Cunningham, did you vote for the officer's recommendation or against it?
Chair, I don't understand what we're voting for or against. If you'd be...
The officer's recommendation is to approve the application. Are you for or against that?
I'm against that.
Against that. Okay, so that's 9 for, 3 against. That application is approved. Thank you. If anybody wants to leave the room now, they can do it. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 7.2. That's a full application, remediation of the land at Deeside Industrial Park to prepare the site for future development. Works to include ground remediation, removal of materials, foundations, removal, diversion of utilities, ground improvement techniques, groundworks, earthworks to create a development platform and associated engineering works at land east of Tata Steel, Deeside Industrial Estate, Sealand. That's recommended for permission. The officer presenting the item is Carl Spilsby. Thank you, Carl.
Thanks, Chair. The proposal is for the remediation of the land at Deeside Industrial Park within the designated principal employment area to prepare the site for forthcoming developments on behalf of Knauf Insulation Limited, which will be subject to a separate planning application at a future planning committee. The application site extends approximately 17.68 hectares and forms part of the existing Tata Steel facility, comprising unmanaged scrubland, an unused railway line, a road, a 43-metre high building, and a 58-metre tall stack, both of which are to be retained. The works proposed are ground remediation, removal of materials and foundations, removal and diversion of utilities, ground improvement techniques, groundworks to create development platform, and other associated engineering works. The application has been assessed having regard to the ecological implications associated with the proximity to the SAC, SPA, Ramsar and SSI, and the local planning authority are content that the survey and assessment works undertaken and the proposed mitigation are considered acceptable and can be secured through condition. Given that the works are essential to support the proposed employment developments that are scheduled to follow, all technical matters including ecology, ground contamination and highway safety have been assessed and considered acceptable. The proposal is recommended for approval, subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Carl. Thank you. We have no late observations. We have a third-party representation. That's a speaker for, that's Ian Gornall, who is the applicant, and you've got 3 minutes, Ian. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and members of the Planning Committee for the opportunity to speak in favour of the scheme. My name is Ian Gornall, and I'm the Project Director for Knauf Insulation. Knauf Insulation is part of the Knauf Group, which is a family-owned business employing more than 40,000 people globally and more than 1,000 in the UK, many of whom are enjoying long careers at Knauf Insulation's 2 existing Welsh factories down the road in Queensferry and in Cwmbran in South Wales. At Knauf Insulation, we're responsible employers. We look after our people. We seek to be a valued part of the communities where we have factories. We pay our fair share of taxes wherever we do business. We care for the environment and the safety of buildings that we live and work in. Buildings account for circa 40% of the UK's carbon emissions. And ultimately, insulation manufactured in Shotton will help make buildings safer and more energy efficient and will be produced in one of the cleanest, if not the cleanest, rock mineral wool insulation manufacturing facilities in the world. The facility will deliver well-paid jobs long-term at the Shotton site, plus hundreds more in the indirect jobs in the supply chain. To be clear, the scheme that we've brought forward today deals with the remediation and decontamination of the site only, and the scheme to construct the factory itself will be subject of a separate planning application, which will be presented to committee later this year. The site today is a brownfield site and part of the Tata Steel estate. It's located within an employment area, innovation zone and national growth area, and the principle of remediating this site ready for future development is entirely appropriate in planning policy terms. It's been in industrial use since 1896, exactly 130 years since the Summers brothers purchased 10,000 acres of marshland for 5 shillings to produce galvanized steel sheeting. Our proposals have progressed through public consultation earlier this year with no concerns raised by local residents, and we've worked collaboratively with officers and consultees and fully support their recommendation for approval. Because of the site's industrial heritage, there's a significant amount of remediation and ground preparation, which we hope to commence without delay and complete by the end of this year. This will help to speed up the overall programme by allowing us to progress with the remediation works ahead of bringing forward our development proposals to committee later this year. Our proposals will ultimately deliver well-paid jobs for the long term, as well as environmental benefits through remediation and decontamination of the site. Accordingly, I respectfully ask members to approve the application in accordance with the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, for that. Could you just put your mic off as well? Just press it. Thanks very much for the bit of a history lesson in there about John Summers. That was quite interesting. Thank you. We have no other speakers. So do we have any questions from councillors, members of the committee? Councillor Bibby?
In the absence of any other questions, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to formally move approval subject to officer's recommendation. I think quite clearly it's a very valued local employer, fully compliant with all the relevant planning policies, and the development of the site I think is crucial to the maintenance of the local economy.
Can I second that, Chair?
Councillor Bithell, did you want to speak, Councillor Bithell?
Can I second that, Chair? Again, this is obviously a well-established industrial site dating back to the 1890s, as we've heard, and the proposal is to remediate the land and prepare it for a future development of an industrial nature on the Deeside Industrial Park, which is there for the particular purpose of generating new industrial businesses in our particular county, and has been long accepted as such. I've got no problems with the recommendations, which fit in with our planning policies and our planning laws. I'm very happy to second the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bithell. I do note there's no objections from local members, community council, neighbours, statutory consultees, except with the conditions which are attached. Do we have any other members wishing to speak? Councillor Pearce?
Right, thank you, Chair. Thank you again for the history lesson. 5 shillings seems a bargain these days, isn't it? You can't get much for 5 shillings now. Right, okay. Yes, I think this does meet policy. I do have a question, if I may, or a couple of questions. Relating to the removal of contaminated land and materials and foundations, we'll need to look at the control of dust emissions, because that will invariably create dust. So there's a control of dust emissions. The areas outside the site and adjacent to the site will need to be protected. I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume that large lorries will be required to remove this off-site, or whether it's being reused on-site. We could have some clarification on that, please. If it is transported on-site, is there a transport plan? Would it go through Flintshire? Or if it is to be disposed of off-site, where is the disposal plan to take place? That's all I have on. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Okay, we have no other members indicating, so just go back to the officer to respond on a couple of things then, Carl.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm just going back through the condition just to make sure that those points haven't been raised and pointed out in the conditions. But it is possible that we can condition.
Sorry, if on this point, sorry, Chair, all of those details are boxed off in the supporting statements and documents that have been submitted with the application. So you'll see on condition 2, there's a very long list of plans and documents, including things like noise impact assessment, environmental statement, air quality assessment. There's transport information, all contained within those plans, which have been assessed prior to it coming to committee. So we do have those details, and condition 2 ties the development into those details, so members can be assured that we do have control over those issues that Councillor Pearce has raised.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, can I ask which bullet point it is? I think it's useful for the committee. We have a fantastic list of bullet points. I think it would be useful to have numbers rather than bullet points, because I was going to ask which bullet point covers the control of dust emissions.
Okay, if you look at the bottom of page 21, you'll see air quality assessment, you'll see environmental statement, you've got noise impact assessment, you've got remedial options, flood consequence. So basically all of those at the bottom of page 21 and over the page on to 22 will cover those issues.
Okay, could you just clarify then? You told me where that is, but I think the main thing is the removal of materials and the foundations. Are they being removed off-site or are they being reused on-site?
You answer that.
Sorry, my understanding is that they will be moved off-site. Yeah.
And so is there a transport plan to deal with that? Because I would imagine there's quite a lot of movements. And is it being disposed of in Flintshire or outside Flintshire? And I think a transport plan would be useful to make sure that all that's boxed off as well. But I do support the application. I'm just seeking some clarification.
We do have a KEMP, so a construction environmental management plan, so that's included, and the transport and highways issues are also boxed off in that plan as well.
Just bring the Chief Officer in.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to point to the construction management plan that's the first bullet point, and also looking at the applicants, the majority of the foundations will remain on site, be crushed on site, is normal practice. So just to confirm that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, just taking up Councillor Pearce's point there on the bullet points. You know, when a question's asked, I suppose it is easy to say, you know, a number or a letter rather than it's bullet point 6 or 7 down the page, isn't it? So I can see your point there, Councillor Pearce. Okay, could I just move to the proposer to sum up, please? Thanks. Councillor Bibby.
I think everything has been covered, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bibby. Okay, we shall try and take the vote this time. I think it should be easier this time, I think. All those in favour online of the officer's recommendation? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those in favour in the room? That's unanimous. That application is approved. Thank you. So if you wanted to leave, or you can welcome to stay if you want to. Okay, moving on. Agenda item 7.3. It's full application. Construction of 109 affordable homes. New vehicle testing accesses off 4th Pedrog. Public open space including equipped play, landscaping, highway works, foul and surface water drainage, infrastructure and associated ancillary works at land at Quarry Farm, Leadbrook Drive, Oakenholt. And the officer presenting the item is Alison Dean. Thank you, Alison.
Thank you very much, Chair. As you just noted then, it's the construction of 109 affordable homes, new vehicular and pedestrian access off 4th Pedrog, which is part of the existing Croissati development. Public open space, including equipped play, landscaping, highways works, foul and surface water drainage, infrastructure and associated ancillary works. The application is a resubmission following the refusal of the previous application, which was a full application 37224 at committee on the 11th of June 2005. This is currently subject to appeal. We haven't yet had the result of that appeal. The application proposed the construction of 121 affordable homes and associated infrastructure, and members refused the application due to overdevelopment, high density, poor design and layout, and inadequate living conditions and the amenity of proposed residents. The application site on this application is located outside of the designated settlement boundary. However, the site does abut the settlement boundary and is considered to represent a logical extension to the settlement. And the application seeks to address a genuine local need for affordable housing within the area and is supported by Flintshire's housing strategy team. Policy PC1 outlines the importance of settlement boundaries and defines the types of development that may be considered permissible beyond these boundaries. This includes exception schemes for affordable housing as specified in policy HN4D in the Flintshire Local Development Plan. Policy STR2 also designates Flint as a Tier 1 main service centre, which recognises its strategic role in the provision of essential services and facilities, and the specific criteria in the policy that permits housing development, including exception schemes for affordable housing on land adjoining settlement boundaries. And this approach is consistent with the policy approach in Planning Policy Wales. The site extends to approximately 4.87 hectares and consists of 2 agricultural fields which are divided into 2 parts. The site is located between the residential development of Croissati and the ribbon of housing along Leadbrook Drive. The development is proposed to be located sufficient distance from the Croissati Roman site scheduled ancient monuments, which is located within the northern part of the site. Following feedback on the previous application, which was refused, the proposals have been amended, reducing the number of dwellings from 121 to 109, taking the density from 41 to 36 dwellings per hectare. Policy HN2 seeks to ensure new development provides a density of at least 30 dwellings per hectare to maximise the efficient use of land, and also a mix of dwellings by type and size to meet the needs of residents on a range of house types. The application ensures that adequate house types are provided in accordance with the current local housing market assessment, and a suitable layout is provided with acceptable residential amenity, increased formal and informal play and open space, as well as highway improvements. The housing mix for the site comprises 10 different house types, as shown within the amended drawings, including 1-bedroom flats, 2-bedroom bungalows, 2- and 3-bedroom terrace properties, and 4-bedroom semi-detached and detached dwellings. In terms of amenity space, the interface distances between the proposed dwellings and neighbouring developments are in accordance with the SPGN number 2 space around dwellings, and as a result, the proposed scheme would not cause overlooking or issues for the occupiers of existing nearby dwellings. And the proposed house types are also Welsh Development Quality requirements compliant. The overall development respects the character and appearance of its surroundings and will create a high-quality living environment in accordance with the principles of good design and positive placemaking set out in policies HN4D, PC2 and PC3, and national policy in accordance with TAN 12 and PPW 12. In terms of the vehicular access to the site and pedestrian access, this will be provided via an extension of Fourth Pedrog. That access is already partially there from the Croissati development. Under the previous application, initial concerns were raised over the carriageway width and manoeuvring space for certain parking spaces. However, a swept path analysis was subsequently carried out and amendments provided which addressed highway concerns. The current proposal largely replicates the previous application in this respect and is deemed acceptable, having regard to highway safety, manoeuvring and parking provision. In terms of biodiversity, the site is predominantly species poor, agriculturally improved grassland with hedgerows, trees, woodland and a ditch. Extensive ecological surveys have been undertaken and biodiversity enhancements have been proposed as part of the application. The group of trees at the centre of the site are protected by a tree preservation order, and there are measures proposed to safeguard other trees affected by the development. Therefore, the arboricultural impacts are limited. A flood consequences assessment has been provided in support of the application and has been considered by Natural Resources Wales, who have responded raising no objection in relation to flood risk. Having regard to this in the development requiring a SARB certificate, it is recommended the proposal will be acceptable in terms of flood risk. The schools nearest to the development, Esgol, Gymraeg, Croissati and St Richard Gwyn High School respectively, have sufficient spaces to accommodate the potential numbers generated by the development, and in this respect the Council's Education and Youth team haven't sought a contribution via Section 106 towards improvements to either school. It is recommended to grant planning permission subject to a Section 106 agreement to secure the provision of 100% affordable houses to a mix and tenure to be agreed with the local planning authority, and also subject to the conditions outlined in Section 2 of the Officer Report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison, for that. We have no late observations on this one, so we've got third-party representations, no speaker against. The speaker for, that's Stuart Andrew from Castle Green Homes, and you have 3 minutes, Stuart.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Stuart Andrew. I'm the Design and Planning Director of Castle Green Homes. We're the applicant with the submission for the development of 109 affordable homes on land at Quarry Farm in Oakenholt. Site in question is outside but adjoins settlement boundary of Flint. Whilst not allocated for housing, it is compliant with Flintshire County Council's policy HN4D for development outside of the settlement boundary, in that it proposes delivery of only affordable housing. 109 homes being offered would all be a mix of affordable tenures agreed with the council, and all 109 would be secured as affordable housing by a Section 106 agreement. All would be developed for delivery through a local housing provider to provide people on the council's housing waiting list a new home. Varied mix of house types proposed, with 1, 2, 3, 4 and 4 bedroom properties included, either as bungalows, two-storey houses or flats. This application is an amended resubmission of an application for 121 plots that was refused by this committee against an officer's recommendation for approval in November of last year. Comments were made by members at that meeting regarding the density of the scheme. While the previous proposals were considered by officers and ourselves to be appropriate and policy compliant in terms of density, we have sought to address these members' comments with this application. The application therefore reduces the number of dwellings from 121 to 109 homes over the same area of the site. The previously refused application, as has been mentioned, is currently subject to an appeal, the hearing of which took place on Wednesday of last week. And at that hearing, committee members attending did express that they consider this application to address many of their previous concerns in respect to the density of the scheme. Other aspects of this application remain the same as before. In addition to affordable housing, the development will deliver over 4 acres of public open space and allow for retention of all existing and mature landscaping, both within the site and around its boundaries. Equipped player facilities will be provided at 2 locations within this open space. The Cadw designated heritage site to the north of the site, which is the route of a former Roman road, is also retained in public open space, protecting this heritage asset from future development and safeguarding its long-term future. As with the previous application, there are no objections from any of the council's specialist consultees to this proposal. Matters relating to highways, flood, surface water management, ecology and so on are all being carefully considered, and suitable conditions have been suggested. This proposal would have been deemed entirely acceptable in terms of its principles and design, and will obviously hugely benefit 109 low-income local households in providing them with new affordable accommodation in accordance with the stated aims of Flintshire County Council. We would therefore hope that you consider it appropriate for you to approve this planning application. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Stuart, for that. Now we have a local member online, Councillor Mel Buckley. Mel, you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. As you heard, my name is Councillor Mel Buckley, and I am speaking today as the elected ward member for Oakenholt and representing the residents of Leadbrook Drive and the existing Croissati estate. Let me set the record straight from the very beginning. The community I represent is absolutely not against affordable housing. Oakenholt genuinely needs accessible homes, bungalows for wheelchair users and smaller units for single people. But affordable housing cannot be treated as a golden ticket for developers to bypass basic planning standards. It shouldn't mean cramming as many properties as humanly possible onto a field just to maximise developers' profit margin under the banner of affordability. This committee previously threw out a 121 home version because it was severe overdevelopment. The developer currently has an ongoing planning appeal that we've heard of on that rejection, yet they have bypassed that process to throw this third 109 home scheme at us today. There are just too many unanswered questions for me. Suddenly we are told the scheme will be managed by a registered social landlord. Why wasn't this RSL partner named or included in the previous applications? Why is the identity of this operator still a total secret in the paperwork today? If this is a genuine community asset, why is there zero transparency? Castle Green is trying to use anonymous social landlords as a shield to bypass standard rules, in my opinion, forcing 36 homes per hectare onto unallocated land when local guidelines explicitly say density should be capped at 30. Let's look at the actual layout and the immense strain it puts on the local road system. The proposed vehicle access is completely through Forth Pedrog on the Croissati estate. Traffic there is already a serious issue, and there is absolutely no traffic calming measures whatsoever on that estate right now. Feeding another 109 homes directly into Forth Pedrog dumps hundreds of extra car movements straight past existing family homes and a brand new school. And where do these cars go? straight on the A548. At peak times, morning, rush hour and school runs, the A548 is already gridlocked. In the summer and during bank holidays and at weekends, it's a total standstill. In fact, you can actually walk faster than you can drive. Adding this massive influx of vehicles onto an existing bottleneck is a recipe for highway chaos. Because this site is isolated, future residents will have to drive for basic amenities. This forced car dependency means more congestion, yet the developer's compressed layout does not provide adequate parking spaces. Meanwhile, local infrastructure is at breaking point. Residents face endless struggles to get a GP appointment in Flint, and local dentists are entirely full. It is unfair to place future families in an overcrowded layout that is completely isolated from basic healthcare. There are also major anxieties regarding historic mining shafts on the site. The committee is told by the developers' desk-based reports that the site is safe, but with all due respect, desktop surveys are just calculated paperwork exercises, not a substitute for ground reality. And just recently, another local development had to completely halt and shift its layout because an unmapped mine shaft was discovered metres away from where the official desktop reports claimed it was. If paper surveys can be that wrong locally, we should not gamble with the physical safety at Quarry Farm. And coupled with that, there's the surface water. Runoff regularly floods the A548, making it impassable at times. The unauthorised site on Chester Road that has blocked up the historic drainage channels that used to let the water escape into the estuary of the Dee. The water has nowhere to go. Paving over Quarry Farm will push this failing system over the edge. And this land isn't a wasteland. Last week it had cattle grazing on it. I've seen this with my own eyes. And most weeks it is full of sheep. It is viable land. Shaving off a few houses does not fix a dangerous layout. Missing infrastructure, flood risks and unmapped mining fears. And as the elected member for this ward, I ask you to stick to your guns, protect the Oakenholt community and refuse this application. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor Buckley. Thank you. Do we have any questions from committee members? Councillor Carol Ellis, I saw there. Councillor Ellis, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to ask a question, please. So, if the appeal is approved for the original amount of houses, and this application is approved with a reduced number of houses, what is the situation then? Will the developer choose not to go forward with this application and build to the one that could be passed on appeal? I'd just like clarification of that, Chair, please, if I may.
Okay, Councillor Ellis, thank you. We'll just go through the other councillors, then I'll bring Alison back in to answer that one. Councillor Bithell, you are next. You're on mute, Councillor Bithell.
Insofar as if this particular application goes through today and the other one is one on appeal, which one is going to be chosen? Really, that's a big issue, really, for us. And again, I'm surprised that the applicants have jumped the gun in this respect. One would have thought that they'd let the appeal go to its full length and then come back with a alternative proposal such as this if that one didn't succeed. So I'm with Carol on that particular question. The other question is in relation to the LDP. Within the LDP, we have land in Flint which will be developed. The Northup Road side is referred to, I think, on page 48. Now, the suggestion is that in terms of the requirement for affordable homes in the Flint area is put at 15%, which is not massive and doesn't seem to be a huge demand for affordable homes in that particular locality for whatever reason. And that 15%, I think, will produce 15 houses on that particular development of 150. Now, I'm a bit concerned, really, at this stage here, going for a site which is outside the settlement boundary to provide affordable homes if that particular demand is not there. Because I think basically what will happen in those circumstances, that the site will simply draw in potential tenants and so on, or purchasers from other parts of the county, or even outside the county. And I don't think that's really what we should be about as a planning committee, or indeed as a council. So that's something else which concerns me. Other comments I'd like to make, I've made reference to this before. Betsy Cadwallader's comments, they just have me sort of rolling about in the parlour when I read it, because they're ridiculous. They've got nothing to say whatsoever in terms of providing essential services, in terms of doctors and doctor surgery. They're telling us what we do anyway as a local authority and a local planning committee in ensuring that these green issues, play areas and so on are provided. It's like telling your grandmother how to suck eggs. What they need to be told by us and by other people is that they should be commenting really on what is the likelihood of the Betsy Cadwallader Health Authority in producing and providing essential doctors and nurses and surgeries which will be able to cater for the demand that this will create. And there's no comment whatsoever on that, which is absolutely ludicrous in my view. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bithell. Yeah, I can see you're agreeing with Councillor Ellis, a question about the appeal. It'll be interesting to learn the answer to that one. And I've got in my notes here about Betsy Cadwallader as well. And, you know, it's quite strange. They never mention medical facilities. It's always about green space, play areas. It's quite strange. Councillor Alan Marshall.
Thank you, Chair. Just got a question regarding the capacity in schools. Two schools were mentioned, which is Sgol Croesati, which is a Welsh medium school, and Sir Richard Gwyn, which is a Catholic high school. What about is there capacity in St Mary's Catholic primary school? What about the other primary schools and the Flint High School? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. Councillor Paul Johnson.
Right, my issues, very similar to the ones I raised last time the previous application came forward. It's regarding the Roman, well, what is it? Settlement, cemetery, furnaces, forges, and whatever. I noticed that it's just really that so often when we're doing developments, we talk a lot about nature, but very, very rarely do we look at the historical aspects of this. Now, if you're looking at the Scheduled Monuments report, which came from Cadw, dated 2017, they go and describe this. I think it's quite interesting here. This monument is of national importance and a rare example of a Roman roadside industrial settlement and cemetery with few parallels in Wales. It is likely to retain extensive and well-preserved buried archaeological deposits with high potential to enhance our knowledge of Roman industry, civilian settlement, transport and funerary practices, and the broader patterns of Roman activity along the estuary. It also notes that this itself would be probably connected to the lead mine workings on Holcombe Mountain. Those who are familiar with Holcombe Mountain will know there's virtually no historical record left up there of the lead mines. So there are very, very few Roman remains within this county. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm listening to this debate very clearly, but I think as part of what we are doing at the moment here, for me, I think it is very, very important that this area is definitely preserved and we make sure that it is not built upon or encroached upon in any way. Now, I noticed that when it goes and talks about the conditions number 30, I'm quite happy with a suitable qualified archaeological contractor, that the monitoring is down there, the standards and the report. Now, given what they were saying here in the scheduled report from Cadw, it well suggests that there may well be artifacts that are there which could be recovered and may be unearthed as part of this development. So my first question is, while it talks about the reports and the project data coming forward, if artifacts are found, where will those artifacts be submitted to? If a funerary cyst or urn is found as part of this development, because it does say it's a well-preserved cremation cemetery, how will those human remains be dealt with? I mean, I know it's 2,000 years ago and whatever, but it's still, these are still human remains in that respect. And the final point is, going back to my original one about that we must not lose our history, again going back to part 30, is that in many other places across this county, you go to Flint Castle, you can get to Holcombe Mountain, Basingstoke Abbey, there will always be a plaque explaining what this is, what the building or what the site is. Given it is a greenfield site, I still would like to know that the developer would commit to putting like a historical signpost and a notice board informing people what this area was. Otherwise, it's just going to be a piece of some green fields with possibly sheep or cattle on, and the historical record will be once again lost to memory. It's a very small thing, but I think to me, I would find it important that we recognise that this is, back to the key point there, a monument of national importance with few parallels in Wales. Thank you.
You mean like the bull's head in Ewlow? Back on that. Bit different, but yeah, up to Paul. Have we got any other speakers? Councillor Healy?
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy to see one point which I like is that the footpath is going to be preserved. That is very good, because usually sometimes footpaths aren't preserved. Secondly, the councillor has taken my glory by saying about the monument, the Roman monument. That needs to be definitely be preserved, notice boards, and as well a parameter around it so that the public know that it's there. As well, I've just noticed that there is trees in the middle of the development. What's going to happen to these trees? At the moment, we have to look into the environment and preserve trees. It is very important. And yet, we are going to cut trees down for this development. I am worried about that as well. And as well, I'm worried about, I'm being told that there is poor water conditions. What is happening about these poor water conditions? What are we doing to improve it? That is my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay, I'll just bring the officer in to respond there, Alison.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll try and address these as best I can in some sort of order. So in terms of the affordable housing requirements, I know as I mentioned that possibly isn't the requirement for affordable housing or the amount of affordable housing. Housing strategy have been consulted on this, and there is a high demand for affordable housing, specifically certain types of housing which have been provided as part of the development. That some of the housing registers do change quite regularly due to people moving in and out of the area and some people being housed. But at the time of the consultation, there is a strong demand for affordable housing on that particular site. The housing provider, I know your concerns, hasn't yet been identified, but there have been discussions that have taken place with the developers and the agents. This will be secured by a Section 106 agreement, so we don't have any concerns in relation to that. The surface water was mentioned and the concerns. So there are conditions relating to surface water within the long list of conditions in the officer report. There will also be a requirement for SAB approval because of the size of the development. So also in terms of the issue of the two applications running together, the developer will also require SAB approval for those, so it will be up to the developer to decide obviously which one works best, and when they're liaising with the SAB team for approval afterwards, which is separate to this process, they may decide to go with the second one rather than the first one, and I think that may be the priority for the applicants. Agricultural land. It's 3B agricultural land, so it's not the most versatile agricultural land. So whilst I take note of the concerns, and again, the ecology's also looked at it from an ecology side, it's not significant enough to warrant refusal on that grounds. The two schools identified are the ones that were identified by our education department upon consultation. There were no other schools identified, and they confirmed that there's enough. There are enough places available within the school to accommodate the development. There was no other schools raised as a concern locally. In terms of the scheduled ancient monument, this will be protected by a condition. Whilst if the approval was granted and the works carried out, there is a 10-metre buffer zone as well in between the scheduled ancient monument and the proposed housing. There's also there's archaeological watching brief also will pick any issues up and any artefacts, and then they would need to be reported to CADU afterwards. The trees in the centre of the site, those are the majority of those are TPO'd, so they're protected, and they actually do form, I haven't got the site plan on the screen, but along the central part of the site, those trees do remain a significant part of the development. There's no concerns, and there's also other trees that are due to be protected as well via condition, and that's in the arboricultural report as well as part of the application. I think they've covered everything. Thank you.
Okay. Well, so regarding the appeal and this application, did you really answer the question? I mean, you probably can't answer the question if the appeal is allowed. And okay, I'll just bring Matthew in to answer. I was going to ask the question again, but I'll bring Matthew in.
So the basic answer is it will be down to the applicant to decide which one they go for. So they can either go for if the appeal is allowed, they can go with that one, or they can go with this one that they've applied for today. They can't have both, and they can't have a mix and match of both. It would be one or the other. I have regular meetings with the applicant, and I'm not putting words in their mouth, but my understanding is that their preference is to go with this scheme rather than one that was appealed. And that's why they lodged this application rather than wait for the appeal to be determined.
Okay, there's no guarantees on that.
No guarantees.
Councillor Marshall, did you want to come back in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Did I miss the answer to my query regarding capacity of the schools?
Yeah, I think Alison answered that. Did you want to just, if you missed it, can you answer that again about schools?
Thank you. Yes. So following consultation with our education department, they've confirmed that there is sufficient space within the local schools. They haven't raised any concerns. They only mentioned the two local schools in the actual application. There was no mention of other neighbouring schools, but they've confirmed that there's sufficient capacity for the development.
Okay, happy with that. Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure whether it was Councillor Bibby or Councillor Parkhurst there. Councillor Parkhurst.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it's very unfortunate that this application has come in ahead of the result or appeal. If the appeal was successful, then we wouldn't be spending time debating this. If the appeal wasn't successful, we would understand the reasons why that wasn't successful, and that would then influence our judgment in determining this application. And I really wonder whether it would be best to wait until the appeal is known, and then we can make a more informed decision. So on that basis, I would propose a deferral.
Yep, just bring Matthew.
This is a separate application in its own right, and you have to determine it on the basis of what you've got in front of you, regardless of whether there's something, you know, it's the same site, it's a similar scheme, but it's a different scheme. So you have all the information that you need to determine this application. So to suggest deferral, I think, is wrong, quite frankly. I mean, you should make a decision on this application.
Okay, Councillor Bibby.
Yeah, just apologies if I may have missed this, and I appreciate that this isn't a material consideration, but I think in the interest of transparency, do we actually know who is the registered social landlord that would be in the ownership of this site? As I said, I appreciate it's not material to the determination, but I think, you know, the ward member has made a point in that, you know, it does feel like, you know, in the issues of transparency and openness, that's information that usually would be known.
Thank you, Councillor Bibby. I'm going to ask Stuart. Oh, Ken, do you want to just come back to the mic and just who the social landlord is? That was the question, wasn't it?
As Alison said, there's a very high demand for social housing in the area. We've approached a number of our RSLs, housing associations that we regularly deal with about the site. There was originally a lot of interest from ADRA, but with the original application, we did provide letters that confirmed expressions of interest from North Wales Housing Trust and Clwyd Allen, who both remain interested in the scheme. So it would be one or the other. Okay. Sure.
You don't have to answer this, but Matthew did say before, you know, about the appeal, that was allowed and this was allowed. He did insinuate that you probably prefer this particular application. Is that fair to ask that question? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but you know, if you want to, you can.
No, I mean, I can answer that question. I mean, the original timing of this application, the intent with this application was it would arrive at committee ahead of the appeal. In actual fact, unexpectedly, PEDU given that it's 100% affordable in an area of high need, I assume, PEDU put the application to hearing quicker than was expected. So this application didn't have the opportunity to arrive at planning committee ahead of the appeal. It was our intention that this application would address comments made at the previous scheme. However, the reality is the appeal was heard on the basis that, you know, the previous scheme was refused against officers' recommendations. The appeal was well received by the planning inspector in the view of our barrister. Ultimately, I've got to also weigh up the fact that with a housing association involved and Welsh Government grant involved, we would have to make a choice not to deliver housing to 12 households on the local housing needs register. That's 12 households full of real people, potentially elderly, potentially with children, potentially living in substandard accommodation. So it isn't a discussion around Castle Green profit. It's around us delivering the scheme that works best for the housing association that we're in partnership with and Welsh Government. You know, our job in these schemes is not just to deliver housing, but to deliver homes for people who wouldn't otherwise have them. So that would be a consideration. The truth is, I'm not in a position to answer the question. I don't know what the results of the appeal will be. I don't know what the results of the decision will be today. So.
Yeah, thanks. I hope I don't go into trouble for that, but I thought it was important to try and find that out. Bringing the Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Marshall mentioned two schools, Ysgol Croes Hattie and St Richard Gwyn High School in Flint. Next door to St Richard Gwyn High School, there is St Mary's Primary School. And also, the Diocese of Wrexham are in talks with Flintshire County Council about knocking St Richard Gwyn down and St Mary's down and building a giant school there from 3-year-old to 18 years old. What's going to happen there then?
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. I don't know whether we can't really answer that question. I don't think the officers are saying. Okay, I don't think there's anything to respond to there, is there? Okay. So I'll ask for a proposition, please. Councillor Bithell? Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Bithell.
Chair, I was going to comment on the points that Councillor Parker's raised. You know, this does seem to be premature insofar that there is an appeal in the process. You know, and again, it would be very, very revealing for us to know what the inspector's views would be regarding that particular application, and you know whether it was to fail and so on. It may well give some valuable information in how we can treat this application at a later date once that has been resolved. But you know, it does seem to me they jump in the gun in presenting this particular application at this moment in time, insofar as that there is one at the appeal stage, or has been through the appeal stage at the moment. We're simply waiting for the result. And I don't know whether Councillor Parkers is prepared to move that we defer this, but if he is, I'd be prepared to second that.
Just bring Matthew in for a second.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I would just reiterate and repeat what I said before. This is a standalone application. It's not linked to the other applications. So committee can make a decision on this, and you've got all the information in front of you to make a decision on it. If you defer this, then you run the risk of yet another appeal against non-determination. And in my view, the council would be facing costs because there aren't sufficient grounds to defer this application, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Matthew. Councillor Johnson.
Again, much along those lines there, because without giving a view, there may be members on this committee who feel that this question of deferral is not prepared to vote for it, but they were prepared to vote for deferral. Now, hypothetically, should the committee go and vote against it, again, the situation you described there could occur, and we could have another appeal against a decision that this committee had gone and made. Having made that decision and that being going to appeal, we could find out that the appeal may have gone against us. We've then got two appeals on the same site, which I think I find difficult situation. I'd like clarity. If we go and turn it down, are we then open to another appeal on something which might not actually even go and happen? Sorry, it's a very difficult situation. I think we need as much clarity as we can get on this. Thank you.
Councillor Pearce.
Right, thank you. I'm conscious we haven't yet made a proposition, so we're not speaking to the proposition. But as regards the deferment, I would be with the officer on this in not deferring it, because this application before us, although we're looking at it today, was submitted to the authority in December of last year. So the intention was for Castle Green to have a proposal with a density of 36. And on the face of it, it does deal with some of the issues that we raised back in June. Now, the situation is you could defer this today, but I wouldn't vote for that for this reason. You would likely to be another appeal for non-determination, and that is taken completely out of your hands, and we've got no say on that. But the other situation is that, you know, when we start looking at this, and this is deferred, within a few weeks, you may have the decision of the appeal. Hopefully, it is refused. And I'm sure the developer is hopeful that they can grant the 41. So what would happen then, without any alternative determined by this authority, the applicant has now got an approval from Welsh Government, potentially for 41. He's likely to go with that.
What do you want?
With this, if we consider when we have a proposition that it has addressed a number of the issues that we raised as a committee on the 11th of June. This could be seen as a better scheme. It's been amended. The officer has mentioned some of the issues. Once as a proposition, if it's not deferred and as a proposition, I will speak to it, and I think we can see how this is a much improved scheme. But I do have a question in my mind, is if this was put in December with the intention of bringing forward a better scheme, why would you bother appealing the other one for 41? It doesn't quite make sense. But I think deferring this for however long it takes, if the appeal is successful for the developer, in the meantime, that's what he's got. And we can't do anything about it. If this was approved, and I'm not saying we haven't debated it yet, but if this was approved, you know, when we start speaking against the proposition, I have some questions that may provide answers to what we're looking at. But I'm with the officer that I don't think deferral of this is of any advantage to us as a committee or to the planning authority. I think we should determine what's before us, and then in due course, you know, if the developer has two, yes, the ball's in his court, which one to choose. But if this is deferred, he'll only have one, and I don't think that that is the better scheme. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce, and very wise words, as usual, from you, in my opinion. Councillor Cunningham, is that a legacy hand? Councillor Cunningham?
Sorry, Chair. No, it's I'm going to vote. I listened to what Councillor Mel Buckley said, and she's very passionate about her ward, and I know the ward.
Councillor Ellis?
Oh, thank you. Sorry, the screen just completely froze then. I couldn't hear anything, or I couldn't hear the other councillor speak. Just for clarification, please. Councillor Pearce mentioned 41, and I'm a little bit confused. He mentioned it several times. From my understanding, the original application was 121, and this one is 109. Can you just confirm that, Chair, please?
I can. Councillor Pearce is talking 41 per hectare. It's not the amount of dwellings. It's 41 per hectare. And if it's 121 dwellings, it was 41 per hectare, and 109 dwellings is 36 per hectare. That's why Councillor Pearce said 41. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Is that it, Councillor Ellis? Yeah. Okay. Right, no more speakers on here. Can I accept a proposition then, please? Councillor Pearce.
I'd move approval.
As a second of a Councillor Pearce? I'll second it. Right, Councillor Pearce, on approval.
Right, thank you, Chair. I'll follow the officer where we sort of have a recap of where we were on the 11th of June. So this application before us today is on land subject to a previous but a similar application, and it was presented to the planning committee in June for 121 dwellings with the 100% affordable housing on an exception scheme outside the settlement boundary, and that density was 41. The committee considered the application on the 11th of June, but against officer recommendation. And against officer recommendation, the committee chose to refuse the application. And this followed a review of the officer's report and the plan, with one committee member who likened the application to a ghetto, and that was reported in the press. On that application, very little greenery to the frontages of the properties were evident. Frontages were dominated by parked vehicles, limited side parking between properties, impact on amenity, and the quality of life for future residents. We were particularly concerned on the committee that the officer's report to committee, agenda 7.2, page 56, section 7.15, advised us that, quote, the density of 41 was considered to be appropriate, given that the scheme was for affordable housing. So the question is, because it was only for affordable housing, it was okay then to cram the properties in. The applicant thought so, the planning authority thought so, but we as the committee said no. Application refused. So let's fast forward to today, and before us we have a similar application to June of last year, which in my view deals with some of the concerns that the committee had. The frontage parking has reduced, there's more greenery to the frontages, additional side parking between properties, and a reduced density to 36 per hectare. 30, as we know, is the minimum. So there has been a reduction, and we are told a reduction of 12 properties. It was mentioned by the developer that reducing it by 12 properties means there are 12 less people or families who can occupy this site. But reducing 12 properties makes better living conditions for the 109 that do remain. And that was the argument at committee in June of last year. So with this application, has the developer listened to the committee follow its refusal last June? In my view, it appears to have done so. And perhaps the officer's report that the original site density of 41 to the hectare, which was considered to be acceptable, was perhaps not acceptable after all, as demonstrated in this new application. So perhaps if this application then is approved today by the committee, will that be the end of the matter? Well, we've heard that's not so. Because although this current application was submitted in December 2025, the applicants, I would think, have thought, do you know what? That application for 41 dwellings to the hectare, we should appeal that. Yeah, let's not go with the committee. Let's build the houses. That's what we're here for, and let's make a profit. Well, that's what happened. Whilst this application was with the authority, Castle Green Homes appealed the original refusal. Last week I took part in the planning appeal on behalf of the council, whereby Castle Green Homes appealed against the decision in June 2025 to refuse the 41 houses on this site on the grounds we put forward. Little greenery, impact on amenity, impact on future residents, quality of life. So, despite this application before us today with a density of 36 houses per hectare, Castle Green are still looking to get the maximum number of houses built at maximum profit with little regard for residents' quality of life by going to appeal. By not going to appeal, this application would have carried forward, and if it was determined, this is the new application. I'll be summarising soon, Chairman. If the developer is seriously listening to the committee and noting the original refusal, if this current application is approved today, I would sincerely hope that they would contact the planning appeal inspector to pull out of the appeal process before the inspector's decision is made. If this isn't possible, or if indeed the inspector does rule in favour of 41 houses to the hectare on the original application, that Castle Green adopts this application, the one that's before us today, if it's approved, for a density of 36 houses to the hectare, to show that they are serious, improving a density of 36 to the hectare, proving that they want a better scheme for future residents rather than what they have appealed. It's not just about profit, is it? I think I take the sincere comments of the developer. It's not about profit. Well, let's prove it by, if this scheme is approved, having this, taking it forward instead of the more intense one. This isn't ideal, it's not spectacular, but it does improve quite marginally on the other one, the 41. So with that, Chair, I know the local member did suggest some issues about traffic calming. I think that could be conditioned, but I put that forward, Chair, and hope that we do vote for a better scheme and hopefully prevent the scheme that we refused going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Pierce. As a seconder, I just wanted to say that, yes, it's a definite improvement on the last scheme. Nobody can deny that 36 per hectare is better than 120, than 41 per hectare. I'm pleased to see bungalows on the site as well. You don't very often see a large development with bungalows being built, because the developers don't seem to want to know that, do they? But to see 4 bungalows on the site, you know, for a person of a certain age, I suppose that, you know, you start thinking about bungalows. So the more bungalows that are built, the better, I think. So having said that, I think we've had a good debate on it. So we'll move to the vote. Nothing else to for the officer to mention. We'll move to the
Chair, can we just?
Oh yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, Councillor Mullen. I've just been informed that you were not present during the debate. I mean, I thought I saw you go to the toilet, but you weren't gone for long, in my opinion. In your opinion, I'll ask you this question. In your opinion, are you satisfied that you took part in the debate long enough and were here and present enough to vote on this item? David.
Chair, my role is to keep the council safe, and the strong advice to members is to be here for the full debate. So unfortunately, you know, if you did have to go to the toilet, and we understand that, but you have not been here for the whole debate, so you can't hand on heart said you've heard every argument for and against the scheme. So it is safest, and my recommendation is that you don't vote, and that will keep the council safe. Yeah, and that's not to be awkward. That's just to keep the council safe, because it puts us at risk if you take part in the vote and you've not heard the full debate. So just a note for next time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Chief Officer. Are you happy with that, Councillor Mullen? Yeah. Okay. So Councillor Mullen will not take part. Okay. Okay. Then the proposal is for the officer's recommendation. I'll go online first, please. All in favour of the officer's recommendation? Thank you. Councillor Bithell, is that voting for the officer's recommendation? Just checking. Yeah, that's 3 then, isn't it? 3.
Yes.
Okay. Those against the officer's recommendation online? 2. Those for the officer's recommendation in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that application is approved. That's 8. Was there any abstentions, by the way? I don't think there was there? No. I didn't include myself yet. That's 9, 4, and 2 again. That application is approved. Thank you.
Chairman.
Councillor Dolphin, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to leave the meeting now. I apologise.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay, thank you, members. Agenda item 7.4. This is full application The proposal seeks the partial change of use of the former Greg Dimplex site at Little Mountain, Buckley. The development involves the conversion of approximately 50% of the existing building to provide a multi-use indoor leisure facility. The proposed uses include a paddle tennis club, a small ancillary coffee shop, a gym, fitness area, and an indoor football facility. The development will utilise the existing building footprint with no significant external alteration, focusing on internal reconfiguration to accommodate the new leisure uses. The scheme aims to bring the vacant building back into active use, providing community sport and recreational facilities while supporting local employment and improving the vitality of the site at Glen Dimplex Professional Appliances Limited, Drury New Road, Buckley. And the officer presenting the item is James Beattie. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this site, known as the former Greg Dimplex site, is a commercial site located on the junction of Chestney Road and Drury New Road, close to Buckley train station. Part of the building is occupied by commercial use, and this proposal relates to the currently vacant other half of the building and proposes an indoor leisure venue incorporating paddle courts, indoor football pitch, ancillary cafe, and other ancillary facilities. All sporting activities would take place entirely indoors. Any external alterations would be minimal in scale and limited to modest signage. No external sports facilities or floodlighting proposed. The site is located within the settlement boundary of Buckley. The northern portion of the site, unaffected by this development, is an employment allocation in the LDP, and the site also lies within a principal employment area. These areas are designated where there are readily defined areas of B1, B2, and B8 development. The designation of such areas seeks to safeguard them from the primary purpose of employment development and also seeks to facilitate further employment development. It's therefore important that any proposal does not erode this opportunity for employment development. Proposal for residential development on this wider site was previously refused for this reason, and the decision was later successfully upheld on appeal. LDP policy P6 specifically allows for ancillary uses using my wrong notes. LDP policy P6 specifically allows ancillary uses within principal employment areas, such as cafe, gyms, or other uses which are complementary to employment designation development. It's considered that this proposal would not result in an unacceptable reduction in the supply and range of employment sites in the area and complies with the policy. Furthermore, given that the proposed leisure use would be completely indoors, it's not considered that it would pose any implications for the free and unfettered operation of nearby units and businesses. The location is on the edge of Buckley and close to Drury, Penymynydd, and Dobs Hill. It's within walking distance of a railway station, close to a bus stop, with 5 services per day. This is a sustainable location, bringing wider economic, recreational, and health benefits to local communities. The existing access and parking arrangements are unchanged by the proposal and are considered to be acceptable to cater for this development, as well as to serve the existing commercial use on the site, as there is an abundant parking provision serving the site. In conclusion, the proposal is considered to be acceptable and in accordance with the relevant development plan policies and with regard to other development management considerations. It's therefore recommended that the application is approved, subject to the conditions set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thanks. We do have some late observations. I think Matthew's got them to read. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So there are some comments from our Highways Development Control team. So they confirm that the access serving the development is considered suitable to serve the proposed use. With respect to parking provision, they note that the site benefits from approximately 115 parking spaces, which would appear to suggest an excessively high quantum of parking space. On this basis, they recommend that any permission granted includes the following condition. Adequate facilities shall be provided and retained within the site for the loading, unloading, parking and turning of vehicles in perpetuity. And that is to ensure that adequate parking and manoeuvring space is provided to serve the proposed development and to avoid the necessity for reversing movements into or from the highway in the interests of highway safety and maintaining the free flow of traffic on the adjoining highway. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Matthew. Third party representation, we have a speaker 4. That's Mark Jones. Mark Jones? Statement. We've got a statement. You're not Mark Jones. Okay. Matthew will read the statement out from Mark Jones.
Thank you, Chair. So Mark Jones says, I submit this planning statement in support of the proposed change of use and refurbishment of part of the former Glen Dimplex, Buckley, to create a high quality indoor leisure venue. This proposal represents a significant private investment that will transform a long underutilised building into a vibrant community asset, delivering lasting social, economic and environmental benefits. The development will provide a welcoming, inclusive destination that promotes healthier lifestyles, encourages social interaction and enhances the quality of life for people of all ages. By delivering modern leisure facilities within Buckley, the proposal will reduce the need for residents to travel elsewhere, retain local expenditure, and strengthen the town as an attractive place to live, work, and visit. The refurbishment secures the long-term future of the building through continued investment and maintenance, preserving an important local asset while adopting a sustainable approach by reusing the existing structure, reducing waste, and avoiding the environmental impacts of demolition and new construction. The proposal will also generate economic benefits through employment opportunities during refurbishment and operation, with a commitment to supporting local contractors, suppliers, and businesses wherever possible. Overall, the proposals accord with the principles of sustainable development in Planning Policy Wales, the Wellbeing of Future Generations Wales Act 2015, and the French Local Development Plan by promoting healthier communities, supporting economic growth, encouraging the sustainable reuse of an existing building, and contributing to the ongoing regeneration of Buckley. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Matthew. Do we have any questions to the officer before I ask for a proposition? Councillor Pearce.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Before we make a proposition, I just question on the late observations whether we actually need condition 6. The history of this site was used by Optec, Airbus and Greg Dimplex. They used to have deliveries and exporting of materials using large curtain-sided articular lorries. There are purpose-built loading and unloading bays. This proposal is going to bring in vehicles, people using the facility, and maybe the odd van bringing items in for the cafe that's proposed, and perhaps a waste lorry taking things out. So when we look at adequate facilities for the loading and unloading and parking and turning of vehicles, I think that is part of the original application on this site. This proposal doesn't change that, Chairman, so I'm just questioning whether this condition is actually required. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Have we got any questions to the officer before I ask for a proposition? Oh, Councillor Ellis, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification on the summary, page 61, the last sentence where it says the scheme aims to bring the vacant part of the building back into active use. But isn't all the building vacant currently? I thought it was just said that all the building is vacant currently.
Did you mean
and
page
the scheme is using 50%?
What? Sorry, Carol. What page did you refer to then?
So on mine, I've got a printed agenda, and it's on page 61, and it's bullet point 101 under the summary. Perhaps because mine's printed, I've got different pages to you.
Yeah, 67 on mine, Carol. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay, no worries.
So it's the sentence that says the scheme. It's just for clarification that I think we've already been told it's completely empty, isn't it? It is vacant. But that's explaining that the scheme aims to bring the vacant part of the building back into active use.
Yeah. Do you want to answer that, Mike, or?
Yeah, I can clarify that, Chairman, briefly, that the building had been left unoccupied for a number of years. It was subject to a planning appeal for housing. It was rejected in the LDP and also rejected at appeal. Subsequently, approximately half that building is now occupied by AJS Electrical, which did surprise me when the appeal said that they had no chance of letting it, they wanted to knock it down. But to answer Councillor Ellis's query, half the building is occupied and a subdividing fire break wall has been installed, and I think the officer has seen that and is satisfied with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you want to add there, James?
No, that's perfect. Thank you for that.
That's great. Thank you very much.
You okay, Councillor Ellis, with that? Yeah. Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Any Councillor? Yep, Parkhurst. Yeah.
Yeah, Chair, I'm intrigued by your reference to page 67, to which Councillor Ellis was referring. I think she said it was page 61 on her document. It's page 61 on my document. Councillor Pearce has got page 67. Do we have two versions of the truth then?
I don't know. I didn't actually get mine delivered to me, so can you answer that one? I've no idea.
It's page 67 on mine, Chair, so I'm not sure what
the majority have got 67. Did you print your own out, Councillor Parkhurst? Oh, on the screen, right? Okay. The paper copies, the paper copies seem to be 67 anyway. So
No, Chair, mine's a paper copy and it's 61.
Okay, well, we'll note that. We'll look into that. I don't know what the reason is for that. Okay. Any other questions for the officer before I ask for a proposition? No. Councillor Pearce?
Make a proposition, Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to move approval of this application. This application is to make part use an existing commercial industrial building for leisure use.
Councillor Pearce, carry on.
Happy to second, Chair.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Can we restart the clock? Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Yes, I move the approval of this application. This application is to make part use an existing commercial industrial building for leisure use. And I support the proposal made in section 7.1 of the report to welcome these facilities to Buckley. Briefly, we're talking about an indoor leisure venue incorporating paddle courts, you might be familiar with, Chairman, a gym facility and indoor football pitch. The rest is in section 7.1. This site is close to Buckley train station, so visitors from other areas are able to reach the site using public transport. Section 705 of the officer's report indicates that this is a principal employment site and is included in the adopted Flintshire County Council LDP as such. Despite it being listed as a principal employment site, several attempts have been made by other parties to replace the employment use of the land to housing. This has been resisted on many occasions to enable this site to remain as employment land. And I think I mentioned before, Chairman, previously accommodated by prestigious companies such as the Japanese company Optech, who made wiring looms for the car industry, Airbus making parts for the Hawker jet and transporting them, and Greg Dimplex making refrigerators for medical uses. Change of use for housing was attempted during the compilation and determination of the Flintshire County Council LDP and was refused. And also a formal planning application for this housing on site has also been refused by the planning authority and subsequently dismissed on appeal by a planning inspector. And this is mentioned in section 707 of the report. So we have to consider, will using this part of the building for leisure uses be a stepping stone for future housing applications and undermine the principal employment land status? Having discussed this with the planning officer, the answer is no. However, I do request that a condition is added to any approval that once the leisure business has ceased operation on this site, that the site shall revert to the lawful land use of the building prior to the use hereby permitted. Beginning, yeah, I'll read that again. Shall revert to the lawful land use of the building prior to the use hereby permitted, and that is classes B2 and B8. And the reason for that, in the interest of safeguarding the principal employment area for future employment development, in accordance with policy P2 of the Flintshire Local Development Plan, and to prevent the use of land for housing. I agree with the conclusion in section 8, and I fully support this proposal in bringing alternative leisure facilities to Buckley and making use of a part empty commercial unit with, I'm sorry, I can't read my own writing. So yeah, so I welcome the making use of a part empty commercial unit with this ambitious plan to bring leisure to Buckley, and I move approval, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Councillor Bibby as the seconder. Can you just, would you be happy to agree with that condition that Councillor Pearce has just mentioned as well?
Yeah.
Do you want to speak?
I think Councillor Pearce has comprehensively covered all that needs to be
Just
said.
bring David in, Chief Officer.
Thank you, sir. It's just to advise on the suggested condition. It's ultra vires, we can't impose that condition. So the only way of reverting back to the original lawful use, because by granting the permission, you're granting a lawful use. So the only way to do that would be a temporary planning permission. And with council against that, because that gives uncertainty to the proposed land user, if that makes sense. So if you grant planning permission, you grant a permanent permission for the change of use of the land, and that then becomes the lawful use or the part lawful use of that building. So if that use ceases, that remains the lawful use. So the leisure use, even if the site's vacated, for that element of the building, that remains the lawful use. So you couldn't put a condition on to revert back to the previous use, because that in itself would require planning permission. So if you wanted that to happen, the only way you could do it would be to grant a temporary use for 3-5 years, and then it would revert back to the lawful use. And as I say, I would recommend that you don't do that, because that gives some uncertainty to the new business, if that makes sense. Because after 3-5 years, the permission would run out, and we wouldn't recommend that, because if you were investing into the business, you wouldn't want that hanging, that uncertainty hanging over your head. So I understand the reason for it, but if it's to deal with the potential threat of a future housing scheme, that housing scheme would be dealt with on its face at that time, against the planning policy position at that time. So you shouldn't attempt to use this condition to try and protect against something that would require planning permission in its own right, as in a future housing scheme. So we'd deal with that if and when that situation arose. We'd deal with an application for housing on the site on its merits, assessing against the relevant planning policy at that particular time. So I understand the aspirations, but from a legal perspective, you couldn't use a condition to revert back to the original use. That would be ultra vires. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank the officer for the advice. Well, I hope you can see where I'm coming from. This is a principal employment site with a cast iron sort of position within the LDP, and there's been attempts to undermine that, and officers have resisted it at appeal, and the inspector has upheld that. If I can ask this question, so the change of use for leisure, that change of use would not, without any other change of policy, allow housing to come forward. That's the issue. That's the bit I'm looking for. That when I said in here, I didn't want it to be a stepping stone to housing. So if it, yeah, I don't want it to run out either. I know they're investing quite a lot of money into this, so I don't want it to run out. But should they decide of their own use for it to change, that leisure use, as I understand it from what you've said, that leisure use remains for another leisure use. And if a business came along after that leisure use had finished and wanted to revert back, they would put an application in to revert it back to where we are now, yeah? Okay, all right. Okay, I'll withdraw that comment I made then about the condition, and I'm grateful for the advice, but you see where I'm coming from. We are fully trying to make sure that this is employment land. It's a prestigious site. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Yeah.
Just to give assurance on that. So I understand your concern that granting a leisure use effectively undermines the employment status and takes you one step closer to a residential scheme, and that's not the case. So the officer's report explains how the proposal doesn't undermine the employment designation, if that makes sense, and makes very clear arguments as to why a leisure use is appropriate in the circumstances. But that doesn't weaken the council's position in resisting a future housing scheme, if that makes sense, in the current planning policy position. And as you rightly point out, there is an appeal case on that site for housing, which was dismissed by an inspector as well. So that is obviously a point in our favour.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Yeah, I mean, 50% of the site is employment already anyway, isn't it? So that they can't change that.
Back, it's one large building, split roughly 50-50, and in the front part you've got a developer, an electrical contractor who's leasing the building. The other one is empty, and it would be ideal for what is proposed to bring this to Buckley, and also the proximity to the train station. Other people, perhaps Councillor Bibby can get on the train in Shot and then come up to Buckley. It's right there,
We've got paddle courts in Saltney as well. You could go there as well. No, I'll give him a lift. Right. Yes, so I mean, great health and well-being. That's paddle courts, leisure facilities, great for the area, and employment benefits as well for the leisure part of this complex. So I've definitely been in favour of that. Councillor Bibby, you didn't want anything else to say, did you, on it?
No, just I go to Buckley to go to the butchers anyway, so stop on the way.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we're getting off the subject now, so okay. I think we've actually. Do you want to sum up, Councillor Pearce, or you've actually done it, haven't you? I suppose.
Well, no one else wants to speak, as it seems to be hogging the meeting. Sorry about that, Chairman. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, basically, I wanted to make sure that it was protected from housing. We've had an excellent explanation of the officer. I fully accept that. And it's a way, the reason I brought this to committee, it's an unusual situation that we're now advocating a leisure use in what is a predominantly principal employment estate. So we needed to sort of test that, I think. I don't think it was done under delegate. I think it should be done like this so people can understand that it can be done and there are safeguards built in. But I would fully support the vision of the applicant in looking at this and saying, well, you know what, I could do something with that. Yeah, you don't like to see empty buildings, and if it can be used for this and to bring benefits, with the leisure back into Buckley and to the other areas as well with the train. And I think there's a bus goes down the A549, so it's a sustainable site. So I would just move, and I hope everyone can approve it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Yeah, and I know they're not cheap to build these paddle courts, but with this one, it's indoors. So if it's raining, we'll be able to use that one instead of the one in Saltney, won't we? Perhaps I shouldn't be in favour of it, really, should I? But there you go. Right, we'll move to the vote. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation online. Councillor Bithell, you indicate that's 4, isn't it? Councillor Cunningham, are you voting? Yeah, that's 4 online. In the room. Yes, unanimous. That application is approved. Thank you. Can we take, which is about 2.25 hours now, so we're just going to take 15 minutes, back at half past 3, if that's okay? Yeah. Anybody have to disappear?
Yes, me.
Councillor, I just want to make sure we're caught here, hang on.
I'm going to have to go as well, Chair.
Yeah.
So that's 2 gone. Councillor Cunningham, are you okay to stay? Oh, Councillor Marshall. We've got 9. Okay, if everybody else apart from Councillor Bittle and Councillor Ellis can stay on, we're just about chorus. Okay. Yeah. Okay, 3:30. Thanks. You online? See his name, but I can't see his. Councillor Marshall, can you say something? Got good. Thanks, Councillor Marshall. Yes. Okay, members. Thank you. Welcome back. Just going to move to agenda item 7.7. Just going to miss out 7.5. I'll go back to that in a minute. So I just wanted to move that one forward. So agenda item 7.7 is a report of the development management about management performance update report. So just hand you over to Matthew, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this report presents the Q4 position together with our overall development management performance for the 2025-26 financial year. Overall, I think the key message is that the service has continued to make good progress over the last 12 months, with improvements across a number of our key Welsh Government performance indicators. Perhaps the most significant improvement is in the average time taken to determine planning applications. Last year, our average determination time was 128 days, placing Flintshire in the Welsh Government's improved category. This year, that has reduced to 98 days, moving us into the fair category. And whilst we still have more work to do to reach the good benchmark, a reduction of 30 days over the course of a single year represents a very significant improvement. We've also seen improvements in the proportion of applications determined within the statutory timescales or agreed extensions of time. For major applications, performance has improved from 70% last year to 76.5% this year, which remains within the Welsh Government's good category. And across all planning applications, performance has increased from 78% to 88.8%, again comfortably within the Welsh Government's good benchmark. Our planning appeal performance has also remained strong, with around 2/3 of appeals dismissed, placing the authority within the Welsh Government's good category for another year. Likewise, 97% of decisions continue to be made under delegated powers, which is slightly above the Welsh average of 96%. Turning briefly to planning enforcement, members will see that performance has remained broadly static, and this continues to be the area where we need to improve. The enforcement team continues to deal with a very high workload, together with a number of particularly complex and high-profile investigations, and that has inevitably impacted upon performance. The report explains some of the reasons why enforcement investigations can often take considerably longer than planning applications to conclude. Members will be pleased to know that we are currently recruiting to an additional planning enforcement officer post, with interviews due to take place next week. And whilst I don't expect to see the benefits immediately, that additional capacity should begin to have a positive impact on performance as we move through the coming year. Overall, therefore, I think this report demonstrates that the service is continuing to move in the right direction. There is still some more to do, and we certainly won't be complacent, but I believe the improvements achieved over the last 12 months are significant and provide a solid foundation on which to continue building. I am, of course, happy to take any questions members may have, but before I finish, Chair, I'd like to finish with one final comment. Performance reports inevitably focus on numbers, percentages, and benchmarks, but behind every one of those figures are people. Development management is a demanding service to work in. Our officers deal every day with complex planning issues, competing expectations, difficult decisions, and at times, significant public involvement. That is particularly true within our planning enforcement team, where cases are often complex, lengthy, and highly contentious. I'm very encouraged by the improvements in performance over the past couple of years, and would like to recognise the significant contribution made by the development management team. Their continued hard work and commitment have been instrumental in achieving this progress. The entire team has contributed to these improvements over the last year, and that includes not only our development management officers, but also our colleagues in planning policy, highways development control, conservation, ecology, legal services, and our technical support staff, who all support the planning process. I would, however, like to particularly recognise the development management officers themselves. The improvements members have seen today have not happened by accident. Over the last few years, officers have worked incredibly hard, often under considerable pressure, and in what can sometimes be a very challenging environment. They have remained committed to improving the service whilst continuing to deal with a substantial workload and increasingly complex applications. Whilst there is, of course, still more work to do, the progress made over the past few years is something the team should be very proud of, and I wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge their hard work and commitment in achieving these improvements. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Matthew. Yes, and congratulations from me as well to yourself and the team. I think it's definitely an improvement and a progress. And, you know, obviously working hard, and I think we should recognise that. I'd just like to bring in Councillor Richard Jones. This has been discussed at Planning Strategy Group, who Councillor Richard Jones is the chair and the Cabinet Member for Place and Growth. So I'll just bring Councillor Jones in to make some comments. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chair. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak. I think all the committee members here on planning, we know how difficult it can be when this is one of the most difficult public-facing services. I think you'd all agree. We often get that kind of challenge as well as members, but we have to remember additionally that that similar challenge comes to officers as well, sometimes much more than we do, because they're dealing with developers and agents as well. And, you know, we should be happy to acknowledge good performance. I think that's something which we should do. We're all too quick to, you know, notice things when they're not moving in the right direction. And I think this is just an opportunity to acknowledge the significant improvements that have been made within the DM team and other services that support them. So when it came to PSG, which was in June last month, the report was received in a very similar way for comments and consideration. And I think it would be right to say that I think probably most, if not all, the members of the committee of Planning Strategy Group were of the opinion that there was a significant improvement on all target areas. But you heard from the officer which ones that were the most significant. And that was acknowledged by the committee. And in fact, the committee asked for me to pass on the thanks to the DM team, which I've done through Matthew. But I also think it was important, and so did the group, the PSG group, to thank Matthew, because the leader of that team should not go unnoticed. I'm going to embarrass Matthew a little bit now, because most, if not all, again, of the Planning Strategy Group recognised, yes, that the DM team have done a great job, and it's not an easy thing to do, and they should be proud of the work they've done to improve that service. But I think we should also, perhaps from this committee as well, recognise that the leader of that team, being Matthew, has put a lot of effort into this to make sure those targets are improved. You know, I think over not just the last year, but over the last 2 or 3 years, to improve the service significantly. So I've already put forward, given Matthew a letter to take, well, for himself and for the team, but it might be also something that this committee wants to consider as well, because I think there has been a genuine improvement, and I think it's something that we need to acknowledge. So thanks for that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Thank you. Yes, I think that's I'm happy to do that. Obviously, to congratulate Matthew and the team verbally, but yes, I'll happy to on behalf of the committee, if you're happy with me to do that. Councillor Healy.
Thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate Matthew. He's always helpful, and he does a lot and very helpful. But there is a little bit of a enforcement. I'm happy to hear that we are employing one person for enforcement. But I don't think we need one person. I think we need a bit more as well. Because let me try and explain to you why I'm quivering here. I think out there in the public for planning, they think that if they can take the law into their own hands, let's be blunt. They think they can take the law into their own hands. Before planning is passed, they will start building or running a business because they think our enforcement isn't strong enough. And we should really fight to have our enforcement really, really strong enough to stop this sort of thing going on. I know in my ward, I have quite a bit. And in the ward adjacent to me, quite a bit more. Because it's now, the mentality is like, oh, we can just go and do it. Enforcement won't come. But it's high time Flintshire show them that enforcement is strong and we will do it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, guys. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, as I recognised when I presented the report, there is still some significant work, I think, to be done around enforcement, and undoubtedly the addition of a new officer will assist in getting some of the cases moved more quickly through the process. But unfortunately, enforcement is one of those areas where, by its very nature, because of everything that needs to be done in terms of investigating and drafting notices and serving notices, and then there's an appeal process, and then potentially you're into the realms of courts, and you then just get lost in the whole court timetable. So, you know, I do understand that there can be at times a perception that enforcement doesn't have enough teeth, or that it doesn't show its teeth on a more regular basis. But what I would say to committee and to anybody who's watching online is that we do investigate every single complaint that we receive, and we try to move those things through the process as quickly as we can. There are you know, it's a priority-led system, so you've got 4 priorities that go 1 to 4, 4 being the lowest, 1 being the highest. So we have quite a number of priority 1 cases which have to take priority. But you know, hopefully, I'm confident. I think that when we come to this point next year, and the performance for 26-27 is reported to you, I'm confident that you will see some significant improvement in enforcement. It is an area that I and the team are keen and committed to improving further.
Okay, any Councillor Pearce?
Thank you for the report, Matthew. Yeah, we should see everything that is going on, so things are improving. But I do have to ask questions on what's in the report. So this is not a negative, it's just my own interest. I noticed that it didn't happen this quarter, but there's been an award for costs. In what circumstances would that arise? And I think given the number of enforcement actions, you know, that is a very small or a minute proportion, but I'm just interested to know what prompted that. Because I did see that you know, it falls under a Welsh government measure, so I think it's something we should look at. So with the new officer being recruited, does that bring you up to your required level, or are we still sort of a bit light, or will we have sufficient numbers? And also, sometimes if we have a noise appointment issue, we're directed into pollution control, I think it is. Does that come under enforcement as well? Because sometimes you report these issues, but it seems to disappear in the ether. You don't really, yeah, we're dealing with it, but we don't know whether it's been dealt with. and sorted, or it's been dealt with and we're still looking at it. So I think it's just the communication part. I know that, as you say, Matthew, that everyone is dealt with, but when we report enforcement issues, we tend to just send it. I just tend to send it to one officer. Whether that's correct or not, I don't know, or whether there's a single point of contact. And I'm quite satisfied that it's being dealt with, but it's the conclusion. You know, has it been dealt with? You know, as the issue, because sometimes I will have to go back to the person who raised it with me when I think that if I've raised it with the council, they should come back to me and I can pass it on. So it's just the communication side as well. But yeah, well done for the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. Yeah, Matthew, yeah.
So very briefly then, taking those in order, where costs are awarded, it's usually where the council has been considered to have acted what they call unreasonably. So an example of that would be where we've refused something without the evidence to back up the reasons for refusal, or it may be that we haven't given the applicants sufficient opportunity to address reasons for concern, and we've just moved to a refusal too swiftly. In terms of staffing, you know, as the manager of the service, I'm never going to say I don't think that we've got enough staff. But if you benchmark against other authorities in North Wales, I would say 4 officers in the enforcement team is well staffed. I'm sure David would agree with that point of view. And in terms of pollution control, so that isn't included within planning enforcement. It's a separate service within the portfolio. But what I would say is that, so Sean Jones, who's the community and business protection manager, so my equivalent in pollution control and other teams within that, we have Sean and I lead what's called the portfolio collaboration meeting, and that meets every 6 weeks. And that involves officers within development management, including planning enforcement, and teams within the pollution control team. And so where there is a crossover between our 2 areas, sites are discussed at that forum. And Sean and I lead that and direct the direction of travel. And one thing that I would say is that we would always update the person who has lodged the complaint. So if it's you, then we would always seek to update you. If it was one of your constituents, we would update the constituent. But what we are looking is a better use of our back office system, and how people can make better use of both submitting a complaint in the first place, but being able to track it right through the process to the end and the decision, because I think there is some improvement there to be made. So similar to how the planning portal, you can track a decision in planning applications, we're looking at how you can do that more effectively in planning enforcement as well.
I forgot to ask this one. Would I be able to find out what enforcement actions are underway in the ward that I represent?
Yes, I mean you can contact me and I can get that report pulled together quite quickly for you. It's quite easy to do.
I think we used to be supplied with them, didn't we? I don't know how many years I'm going back. I'm sure we got a list of those at one time. Any other questions or comments for Matthew? No? Okay, so I'll just look. The recommendation is that the members note the contents of the development manager performance update report for Q2 and the overall year 25-26. And if we could just acknowledge the progress and improvement that's been made. And I say, if you're happy for me to just send an email to congratulate Matthew and the team, I'm happy to do that. So Move that, obviously seconder, and can we have a vote on that? All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Matthew. Appreciate that. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Thank you. Okay, so going back now to agenda item 7.5. That's full application, full planning, change of use from agricultural to use for secured dog exercise enclosures at Dogs Hill Paddocks, Dobs Hill, Little Mountain, Penymynydd. Bit of a mouthful that. And the officer presenting the item is James Beattie. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the proposed development is for the creation of 5 dog exercise paddocks on land located on fields within a designated green wedge between Dobs Hill and Penymynydd. The proposal is being applied for retrospectively. Each paddock would provide approximately 3,000 square metres of secure open space for off-lead dog exercise, training and socialising. The paddocks will be available for hire on a pre-booking only basis in either 30 or 60-minute time slots. A maximum of 4 dogs will be permitted in each paddock per booking. 1 paddock is proposed to be reserved for use by a local animal charity to provide them with space to walk and train rescue dogs. Dedicated areas for vehicle parking and turning are provided, as well as an improved access to enable safe and convenient access and egress for both customers and service vehicles. As set out in Planning Policy Wales, the general policies controlling development in the countryside apply in green wedges. There is, in addition, a general presumption against development which is inappropriate in relation to the purpose of the designation. This advice is replicated in LDP Policy EN 11, which directs which forms of development are considered appropriate in a designated green wedge. Criterion B in that policy allows for essential facilities for outdoor sport and outdoor recreation, alongside other uses of land which maintain the openness of the green wedge, which do not conflict with the purposes of including land within it. The purposes of a green wedge is to prevent the coalescence of large towns and cities with other settlements, to manage urban form through controlled expansion of urban areas, assist in safeguarding countryside from encroachment, protect the setting of an urban area, and to assist in urban regeneration by encouraging recycling of derelict and other urban land. The proposal would not conflict with any of these purposes and is considered to be an appropriate recreational use within a designated green wedge and one that maintains the open character of the designated area. The proposal does not introduce built elements such as buildings or other structures that would be incongruous in this designated landscape, apart from the internal fencing that divides the site into paddocks. The proposal also introduced landscaping in the form of native species.
Did you say you can't hear very well?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, too fast. Okay.
Sorry.
Hold on.
I want to get the day finished. Sorry, the proposal does not introduce built elements such as buildings or other structures that would be incongruous in this designated landscape, apart from the internal fencing that divides the site into paddocks. The proposal also introduces landscaping in the form of native species hedging between the paddocks. This will soften the appearance of the fencing and can also contribute to the net biodiversity benefit of the proposal. While the fences are already in place, the planting will be conditioned in order to ensure that it is carried out and will help to landscape the site over time. Site boundaries themselves have existing established hedgerows on all sides, which proposed landscaping will bolster. These hedges largely screen the site from public view. A noise management plan has been submitted with the application and will be secured by condition. It's considered this document alongside the proposed management of the site in terms of restrictions on booking and dog numbers, safeguards local amenity, and the impact of the proposal on local amenity is considered to be acceptable. In conclusion, subject to the management of the use of the site, which will be controlled by the conditions, it's considered that the proposal represents an appropriate use within the designated green wedge, which does not unacceptably affect the open character of the designation. And as such, it's recommended the proposal is approved, subject to the conditions listed in paragraph 2.01.
Okay, thank you, James, for that. We have no late observations on this one, and we have a third-party representation as Speaker for George Evans. And apologies, Mr. Evans, for keeping you there so long. I didn't realise. Okay, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to speak this afternoon, and to James for your presentation and recommendation for approval. I'm George Evans from Axis, the agent for the applicant. The applicant has worked hard to deliver a proposal that makes productive use of rural land whilst preserving its openness and enhancing biodiversity. The development would provide a well-managed recreational facility that meets an identified local need, delivers local benefits, and minimises environmental effects. The application is supported by a comprehensive landscape scheme, which would retain the vast majority of the existing vegetation and deliver significant landscape and ecological benefit through new and enhanced planting. A preliminary ecological assessment which demonstrates that there will be no unacceptable adverse effects on wildlife and the net benefit to habitats provided through the landscape scheme. A noise management plan provides details of practical and effective measures to avoid adverse impacts from noise, and highways technical note, which demonstrates that safe and efficient access to the site can be provided, and there will be no unacceptable impacts on the A550 or the wider network. It is acknowledged that the proposal falls within the green wedge. However, when assessed against policy EN11 of the local development plan, it is clear that the development is an acceptable use in the green wedge on the basis that it would represent a justified rural enterprise which requires open space that cannot feasibly be secured in a more urban setting. It would provide an essential outdoor recreational facility, providing space for dog owners in the local area to safely and securely exercise their dogs. And there will be limited impact on the openness or the purposes of the green wedge on account of the limited built development, the compatibility of the use with rural settings, and the introduction of significant landscaping. The facility would be appropriately managed to further mitigate against any adverse impacts. This would include the use of a booking system to avoid scheduling conflicts and keep account of who is using the facility. Restrictions on operation hours to avoid the need for artificial lighting, and the provision of dog waste bins to ensure that the site is kept clean. Strict rules would also be put in place, which all users would be expected to follow at all times. It is clear that the proposed development represents an appropriate use of the site that would deliver clear benefits and would not give rise to any unacceptable environmental impacts. As such, I would respectfully request that members support your officer's recommendation and approve the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you. Good timing that as well. Okay, we have a local member now. That's we've got a statement from Councillor Ibbotson, and Matthew has that to read out. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this statement is from Councillor Alistair Ibbotson, and he says, I would like to make representations to the committee regarding this application. I will not be physically present, so please find a written statement below. This application is clearly a breach of policy EN11 in the Council's adopted LDP, and the principle established in COU/001034/23 when the Council rejected the transformation of the green wedge through gravelling an area of 1,700 square metres of it. The Council's refusal of that application was upheld on appeal by the Inspector, and temporary permission also refused due to the permanent damage that much loss of green area would do. This application in the same green wedge has 1,740 metres square of gravel and hard standing in the same green wedge. The damage is exactly the same. It would not be rational to grant one application and refuse another. This application must be refused too. The relevant parts of Council Policy EN11 state within the designated green wedges development will only be permitted for A. Justified rural enterprise needs, B. Essential facilities for outdoor sport and outdoor recreation, cemeteries and other uses of land which maintain the openness of the green wedge and which do not conflict with the purpose of including land within it. D. Small-scale diversification within farm complexes where this is run as part of the farm business. This application clearly does not meet the requirements of D, as it is not part of a farm complex or farm business, nor B, as it is not essential as set out in the policy, nor A, as it is not a rural enterprise. It is a suburban one aimed at people without large enclosed gardens. To allow such permanent damage to the protected green wedge when the Council and Inspector have already found that this scale of damage undermines the green wedge, when there is no policy justification under EN11, would be a dereliction of duty on the part of the Council. If the applicant were applying for this on land not in the green wedge, there would be no serious grounds for objection, and dog exercise facilities already operate elsewhere in the community. However, the applicant has chosen to damage the green wedge, indeed has already installed the gravel and hard standing without permission. If the council does not act to reaffirm that this scale of development in the green wedge is inappropriate, this decision is liable to be used as a comparator case in discrimination claims against traveller sites in green wedges in Flintshire. Green wedges are chosen and protected for a reason, and that protection must be upheld. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Matthew. Do members have any questions before I ask for a proposition? Councillor Parkhurst.
Yeah, Chair, I'd like to ask the officers for clarification then on the comments made by Councillor Ibbotson as to whether this proposed development does indeed contravene policy EN11 with the degree of high fencing, which is out of character in a rural environment. It's certainly higher than stop-proof fencing, with the extensive parking and access roads and possibly difficulties with also dangers with highways and signage and the sort of regular vehicle movements. I'd like the officer's opinion as to how that can comply with policy EN11. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parkhurst. Councillor Johnson.
Okay, so can I just check? There is, when you look at where the roadway comes in, the roadway that is currently there, has it been widened recently? Or has there been any widening to the track which leads into the from the road, from the main road to the site itself? Has that been widened? Is that 20 feet, 6 meters wide? Has it widened? Right, because, okay, so my second point is, because I wasn't able to go there, but when I looked at it on Google, for example, it did seem to be a new road was there, as it was said, and it seemed very narrow. And I'm like wondering, if it's 20 meters, you should have two-way traffic coming down there. Now, when I looked at the document, which was Dogshill Paddock Plan PDF, basically there, and they gave the meters, the square meterage of each, of the paddocks, the length of it showed each one there, but it didn't give the indication of what the parking area was going to be. So my calculation here was that in the longest paddock is 84031, and the gives it a slight L shape on the one next to it. The width of that parking area looks to be about 6 meters from my calculations. Now, I have one of these, so it's something very similar in my own ward. My question here is, how many cars can park there? How do they then go and reverse in that small area? Because I'm looking at it being very, very short. Let's be honest, that people who go on dog tracks and stuff like that don't always go and have Fiat 500s. So the question is, how do they go and reverse? What is the provision if there are two large vehicles coming down that track, which I can't see from, say, from street map, unless it's been widened from what it is, but it does look like it has very recently been had hardcore put on it. What is the provision for traffic management? So if you're coming out and somebody else is coming in, what goes and happens to traffic? Do they reverse back to the main road, or does the car which is coming out of the paddock, do they go and reverse back? I'm not clear. And so it's parking, and it's actually access within the site that is concerning this, because I'm not sure. There's no designated car parking spaces that are down there, and there's certainly no turning circle. I will do.
You're looking at me to answer it, but I'm going to bring the experts in to answer that. And I've got that written down as well. Parking on the road, parking space, and I was about to ask that if you were asked before me.
Apologise for using Google Maps, but I wasn't able to come on the I'm looking at it there, the hardcore that had been placed did look to be fairly recent, and the description of it being a drop-down curve wasn't the case on Google Maps, so I did feel that might have been an improvement. Thank you.
I'll bring highways in to answer that. Is there any more questions? I'll just, Councillor Pearce, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, can I ask Matthew, you mentioned in the statement from Councillor Ibbotson about a similar area where gravel or hardcore had been laid, and I think there was a ruling against that. You mentioned a document, I think, started in COU. I didn't manage to write that down. Could you consider whether that's a precedent that's already been set for a similar situation?
Thank you, Space. I've got that written down as well. Matthew, do you want to, any more questions before I bring, do you want to come in first, James? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, so I'll kind of work backwards actually with Councillor Pearce's question first, because that was a site. I think the site that Councillor Ibbotson is referring to is the Gypsy Traveller site at Little Mountain Road, which is subject to an appeal. That was in a green wedge, and ultimately the council's refusal was upheld. It's a completely different form of development. It's a residential occupational site. There is more. I mean, I would. He kind of assess it as a similar level of hard sanding. I couldn't comment on that without having the details in front of me. But in terms of the profile of the site, the amount of hard sanding on the site, in that case, it was almost the entire site was covered. And I think the key difference is it's a residential occupational site. This doesn't have any residential occupation. There's no buildings here. So the profile of the developments are quite different, I'd say. And then I'll jump back to pick up a few points from the council's statement. I would disagree with his assessment that this application doesn't agree with policy EN 11, and the reasons I say that are in the report. So between paragraph 7.07 and 7.13, I've set out why I believe it does agree with it does comply with the policy. It's a recreational use, which is an allowable form of development. The only features on site which are introduced are the fencing, which is while high, the profile of them, they're stop-proof fence, wire mesh. It's not the profile in terms of the impact, and you can see from the photos that are up there where the fences are in place. My view is that's not particularly a kind of egregious feature to add to that site that would actually change the profile, the character of it, the open character of it. Also, in addition, the actual planting, which will be secured by permission, will soften those features more than they are already. So yes, so I don't agree with the councillor's views that this proposal represents something that's contrary to policy EN 11. And I'll bring Councillor Johnson's questions about the highway. So the highway technical note has been submitted. That kind of goes into the kind of vehicle movements. There's swept path analysis on there. That followed quite in-depth discussions between our highways development control team and the agent to overcome the initial issues. I think there had been some improvements done to the access prior to the agent coming on board. So it's important to obviously look at that from a highways point of view and make sure that they're acceptable. And so the conditions that have been suggested would make sure that the work that's been carried out is in accordance with their requirements. There's no formal layout of parking. I think that would be inappropriate, given that we're looking to kind of keep the character of the site rural. However, again, the technical note does show that there is room to manoeuvre. I think as well because of the management of the site, in terms of it's pre-booking only. You don't have people coming on spec, so that can be managed in terms of the numbers of vehicles because you have the times and the number of dogs. So you kind of can judge how many vehicles are going to be accessing site at any one time, and it should provide enough room, and highways are happy that this is the case for vehicles to turn, and so you're not back onto the highway. That would be inappropriate, certainly. So all vehicles should be able to access and exit the site in a forward gear, and there should be room with the management of the site to ensure that there's no kind of conflict there. Sorry.
Shall I just bring Sue Thomas in just to comment on the highways? And Sue, can we presume there'll be no parking on the road for this site as well?
Yes, thank you, Chair. There has been a technical note that's gone through to alleviate the original concerns from the highway perspective. You'll note that there are 3 highway-related conditions that are requested within 2.01 of the report. It will bring forward improvements. The access that originally served this site was just an agricultural access. So there have been improvements that have already been carried out on site. And what this proposal will do is it brings forward an access which is 6.3 metres wide, which will allow for simultaneous passage of 2 vehicles. It also provides adequate parking and manoeuvring internally within the site. So there will be no necessity in terms of on-street parking, because that's what we obviously would not want to see on the A550. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. So did that answer, Councillor Johnson, did that answer what you were going to ask then?
I was just going to say, is it possible that when this scheme, if it's approved or whatever, if it is very, very clear that traffic which is coming out must give way to traffic which is coming in, that is absolutely obligatory, and perhaps another sign saying no reversing onto the main road.
There'll be no, sorry, Chair, if I can cut across, there would be no necessity for that, because the access width does provide for simultaneous passage of 2 vehicles at 6.3 metres wide. So there's more than adequate width to allow for simultaneous passage of 2 vehicles where the access meets the highway.
I thought that's what you said before. So it's wider, they can pass. Okay. Councillor Pearce, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair. We switched on to highways now. Can we see a map showing the access of the A550 and an indication of the vehicle movements? In the report, it does say further hedgerow removal is required as recommended by highways to ensure a double width access. That's a concern from ecology. So can we see the detail of the map showing the access in detail, and also the simulation of 2 vehicles there, and an indication of what hedgerows are required to be removed? Thank you.
Can you point that out, Jeff?
It's not on the presentation. It is on the citizens portal with all the application documents are. So the highways technical notes has got all that information in there. So that would be an approved document here. I mean, it's publicly accessible. You can go on the website and have a look at it.
Matthew's just going to see if he can have a look for that. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute. So, Councillor Parkhurst, your question was about contravening EN11, wasn't it? And are you happy for the answer that the officer gave you on that one? Because he states that it's in the report that it doesn't contravene EN11.
I think that's probably a matter of opinion, isn't it, in terms of this particular activity, as to whether it constitutes an urban recreational activity or a rural one. So one has to respect the officer's views. I'm sure others might disagree.
Probably better.
Oh, Sue, could you just, Matthew's got a plan on the screen there. Can you see that? Do you want to just talk us through that?
Yeah, so the different tiles on the screen in front of you show the different movements in terms of simultaneous passage, indicating clearly through sort of path analysis that there is adequate width within the proposed access bell mouth to accommodate for simultaneous passage of 2 vehicles.
Okay. Are you happy with that? Well, anyway,
But I can just come back. Just refer you to the report, page 83. Further hedgerow removal recommended by Highways to ensure a double width access. So as it stands, we've got a single track, but further hedgerow removal is required. Now, that pretty much goes against the green wedge, I would have thought, Chair. I know we haven't got a proposal on the table yet, but you know, I think we're building up to it. Thank you.
I think, sorry, James, you can answer that about the hedgerow, how much might be removed?
Yeah, it really comes down to the situation where obviously the acts, as I said before, some of the work was done retrospectively prior to any permission obviously on place. That was the initial kind of start point before the application came in was enforcement investigation. Obviously the work ceased until consent's granted, so there is further work to get it to the standard of the submission as agreed with Highways, and that's what the conditions are there to secure. So the hedgerow will be just to ensure that the visibility displays are left free, because at the moment it is quite an established hedgerow all along the frontage.
So basically you're saying there won't be a great deal of hedgerow, it'll just be for
Trimming
visibility.
back, you know, just making sure that those displays are left free.
Yeah, Councillor Johnson, did you want to say?
Application. Could you explain? I'm looking at the fencing details map, which is 1395421 fencing details. Again, looking at the road there, and you've got both carports and car parking. Car parking is the lines which kind of mark it there. What is the difference between a carport and a car parking? Oh, sorry.
James,
sorry, where's the reference
to
carport?
It's on the fencing details document on there. And when I'm looking at it there, it says carport, and it's got 5 carports, and it's an area for car parking. All I'm asking is, what is the difference between a carport and what is its purpose, as opposed to car parking?
Do you have a page number there?
Yeah, so it's. Hang on a second. The document is. If you go into the main one, the main application form, it's under plan, and it's the second document down. 1395421 fencing details. Oh.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Chair, if you invite the applicant, he might be able to explain.
I got told off for doing that last time, didn't I? I'm happy to do that. Yeah. Right. Okay. I'll just bring George. You want to come back to the table? Just for our benefit, really. Can you explain the questions just been asked about the carports?
Yeah. So the carports they're essentially just an area where visitors with their dogs can drive all the way into the field, secure the field, so close the gate behind them before letting their dogs out. So just to stop dogs from running onto the road or escaping the secured area. So
that was well within your 3 minutes because you had a minute left last time, so that's fine. Okay. I'm going to ask for a proposition now, actually, because I think we've had a good debate on it. Can I have a proposition, please? Down to me then. Okay, I'll move the officer's recommendation. I'll have a seconder, please. Councillor Bullen, thank you. Does anybody want to speak on the proposition?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not in favour of the proposition. I'm still considering the precedent that has been set on a green barrier area. I noticed it was mentioned about that on an alternative site within the green wedge. It was linked to residential use, but irrespective of whether it's residential or dogs, the damage is being done, that the gravel or hardcore has been laid. And this is not about it being a retrospective application. The fact the damage has already been done, and it is a green wedge. It's not part of a farm complex, and it's not really a rural enterprise business either. I'm concerned about where it mentions ecology, hedgerow removal in a green wedge to accommodate a double width road, and also to accommodate the overlaying of gravel and hardcore on what is essentially open countryside in a green wedge. It seems to go against everything that we tried to maintain within the LDP for a green wedge. When you think about a green wedge, you think of that's it, you know, completely open, undeveloped. I do have a concern with its proximity to the A550. The speed is gradually reduced there now down to 40. Any parking on that road would be disastrous for traffic congestion. It is bad at 5 o'clock anyway. I've seen that. And then there's the security of the fences. You know, this is right next to an A road. What is the situation if a dog manages to escape? Again, it would be chaos on this particular road. Pennyford Community Council, we do have to take note of what other authorities are saying, and they object due to the damage. I agree, the damage to the outlook of the green barrier through excessive amounts of hard standing and intensification use. It was mentioned about the internal fencing and structures being incongruous to the landscape, very stark in domestic appearance. That's not what you want in a green barrier. It talked about the impact on the root system of a number of mature native oak trees. Now, I'm sure the business has every good intention of providing a service, but my view on this, Chairman, is it's in the wrong place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Councillor Bibby, you wanted to speak? Okay, sure. Okay. Any other speakers? Councillor Parkhurst.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think the key word here is essential. Policy EN11 allows for essential facilities, including outdoor recreation. I haven't heard a convincing argument that these are essential facilities. They might be outdoor recreation, but are they essential? And I'm not convinced, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Park. Any other speakers? No? Okay, we'll take the vote then for the officer's recommendation. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation online? All those against the officer's recommendation online? 2. All those for the officer's recommendation in the room? All those against the officer's recommendation in the room? That's 3. 9, that's it. Okay. So that's 5 against 4, so that application is refused. Thank you. That concludes the meeting now. Thank you.
We need to take refusal to find the reasons, don't we?
Yeah, yeah, okay. I'll just ask for another proposition then, really. I think we'll have to go down that route, won't we? Can I have a proposition for refusal then, please? Councillor Pearce, can I have a seconder? Councillor Parkhurst, okay. Can we have the reasons for refusal, please?
Impact on the green wedge. And it's not an essential requirement that it should be allowed to contravene the green wedge. the potential damage to the green wedge by hard standing. So basically, inappropriate impact on the green wedge.
Okay, then we'll take a vote on the proposal for refusal.
Got the reasons, Matthew?
You got them? You've got reasons. Okay, all those online for refusal, raise your hand. 2. All those in the room for refusal. 3. All those against. Okay. 3 against, 1 abstention. Okay, that application has been refused. Okay, thank you, members. That concludes the meeting. Thank you very much.